Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
It has been a while, Diva.
It has been a while. You know, last time we talked, it was cold out. That's how you know it's a while.
Yeah, I know. My apartment's falling apart. I have a haircut. Things are changing. Okay, the winds are a-blowing.
It's true. We passed our 1 week of spring that New York City gets, and we're fully into summer now.
Yeah, it's over now. But also it's raining. Ugh. So much going on. We talked a little bit about this off mic, but like we have a 10 Things I Hate About You musical coming by Carly Jepsen.
Oh my God.
My life will be changed. That will be my entire personality. I will single-handedly keep it open.
I hate the way that it's not out now, but most of all, I hate the way that I'm not watching it right now.
I hate the way you make me laugh. I hate the way you make me cry.
But most of all, I don't hate the way.
Yeah. I watched it on a flight and I was like, this is a perfect flight movie.
Oh, 100%.
100%. Like, I need to go back to my Letterboxd and put that movie into my top 4. I don't care. I don't care.
It's like 10 Things I Hate About You and Conclave. Perfect flight movies.
Perfect. I'm just like Saoirse Ronan, who's like, I'm not going to pick cool movies. I'm going to pick fun movies. And she put in like Sister Act 2 in. I was like, yes, queen. Yes. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or mini genre. We take an entire month. We read and watch as much as we can. We get as much information as our brains can possibly hold. And then we give all that information back to you. And then we tell you what we like and what we don't like.
And my brain is so small, I can't even hold anything in there. I'm dumb baby.
It's gotten even smaller since you got that haircut.
Whatever. Do you think there's a kink out there for like small baby heads? Probably, right?
And meaning. I'm sure. I'm sure. There's one for everything.
As I was doing that bit, I was like, oh, this is like a little freaky. Like someone's gonna be too into this.
I often think of that episode of 30 Rock, which probably has not aged well in any way, shape, or form, where there's the new writer who like only talks in baby talk. And then it turns out that she's like escaping an abusive relationship and pretending that she's not who she is. Like,
you know, I love 30 Rock, but there's a lot of questionable content looking back now.
Well, Liz is often not the hero. And I think that's what people forget.
Correct. Also take a minute for Pulitzer finalist Oh Mary.
Beautiful.
Can you believe?
It's the demon twink themselves, Cola Scola.
We are living in a golden, like this season of musicals plays like incredible.
I saw Dead Outlaw.
Yes.
And I'm seeing it next week. So
I have some thoughts on that, but I'm gonna let you go see it and then we'll talk about it and have discourse.
It'll be discoursing.
It'll be discoursing. Speaking of like little gremlins let's hold little gremlins and creatures for our actual subject. Yeah, we have a little bit of old business to get to first.
Yes.
I just wanted to, since we're not doing polls on like on Twitter anymore, I did just want to like discuss a little bit about, you know, our last subject, Denzel.
Our last subject was Saoirse, darling.
Oh, I already brought her up and I thought, I already brought her up because she wasn't our last one. You know what's funny though? My mom called me and she said, I'm listening to your podcast right now. And she was listening to Saoirse. She couldn't say Saoirse. And you know what she said about our lovely, lovely guest, Owen? She said, your guest sounds like a cartoon character. And I said, Mom, Owen's just Irish.
Yeah, they're just Irish, baby.
Yeah. And she was like, no, it's not just that. I was like, they're just gay and Irish, Mom.
I love that. I love Owen. They bring such a wonderful light to the show when they're on.
Yes.
And, I just think Americans think Irish people are fake.
Right.
Like, not real.
That is absolutely Owen, that is on us and
that's
our
on
people.
Us.
That is not on you, babe. But yes, Saoirse, I thought that was a great episode. Loved rewatching all those things and those new ones. I'm still like shocked and gooped and gagged by Hannah. And there's just a lot there. And can't wait to see more from her. Um,
I
Gavin,
have one last thing before
oh, that's right.
we move out of Saoirse, and it's totally my fault. I have a correction for last episode, and something I, after the episode was out, attempted to go back and cut out, but it did not seem like Libsyn, who hosts our show, really wanted to take that new episode, even though I tried multiple times to re-upload a new episode.
She said, "Girl, live with your shame.
Yes.
Live with your error."
And nobody called me out on it, but I do want to say that yes, I do in fact know that the government does in fact fund a portion of PBS and NPR. And I even knew it when I said it. I said that they did not, and I know I was just trying to make the distinction for Owen between RTE, which is like a real TV network, and PBS, which is a real TV network, but doesn't do things like these important miniseries and whatnot. That like RTE is closer to like our network television, even though it receives government funding and whatnot. And PBS like then takes those things from Ireland and Britain and puts them on as part of Masterpiece Theatre. So that's
they're not like producing their own content, right? Like
they do their own news. And I think maybe stuff like, I mean, I think they have a stake in Austin City Limits and whatnot, but I don't think like a lot of it is their own.
I mean, people pitch to them and like produce their own stuff, and then they like buy it. That's what their model is.
Yeah.
Like, they're not like, I mean, they're producing in the most loose term of like, okay, we're gonna buy your documentary, we're gonna buy your whatever.
Yeah. But I just wanted to clear that up because obviously, like, we live in the worst timeline currently,
yes,
and in a terribly a country in decline, in which the current president, hostile current president, is pulling funding from those resources. So I do want to say that, like, I do know that they are partially government funded, and I do not support the pulling of those funding because those resources are very important to a civilized country, and unfortunately that is clearly not what we're living in at the moment. So
yes, the Mixed Reviews is pro public services, whatever they may be.
Absolutely.
Gavin, we have some exciting news as well.
Yes,
this is maybe a little bit more new business,
but it deserves to be up top.
Yeah.
Do you like my new up top? I have no idea what's going on with me.
I have some thoughts about what's going on with you.
I am fully
brain rats.
Yeah. I'm fully on cold medicine, and not in the fun way. So that's that could be it. But yes, we are starting up May Madness again. Unfortunately, this episode is not out in April like it was supposed to be. It is currently May, so we will be starting May Madness towards the middle of this month. As Louis mentioned before, we are no longer doing polls on Twitter because we're not doing anything on Twitter because it's a fascist hell site. And so we're going to be doing things on the other fascist hell site, Instagram, which is less fascisty, but also
they're at least like not aggressively pro-Nazis and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, we have a great lineup of contestants. I don't know quite what to call them, like
the queer contestants.
Yes, and this is the second year in a row in which we are doing an all queer lineup because May Madness leads into June, which will be our Pride episode. So we have once again picked a roster of queer actors, directors, just people in the film industry to choose from. Some of them were in last year's poll, and some others were added for this poll. So just to let people know what they can expect, starting on May 12th, I believe, which is next Monday, there will be a couple verses. We'll put them out. You can vote on Instagram. We will put it out as an Instagram post, and then later as an Instagram story. We will be tallying those votes together. And we're doing only 3 rounds this year because we're truncating it just a little bit. And then finally, the third round will be between 3 queer individuals.
The
fourth round. Yes, sorry. Thank you. The fourth round will be between 3 queer individuals, and that the voting will take place on our Patreon, because as a Patreon supporter, part of our goal is to get you to vote on people that we're going to be covering, just so you can have your say as well. So if you want to vote in that final poll, you'll have to join our Patreon, which is $5 across the board. So hopefully not breaking your bank. I know it's a rough time. So if you can't, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. But our current spate is Greg Araki versus Lily Tomlin.
That's going to be iconic.
Oh my God. Absolutely. Ian McKellen versus Rock Hudson.
Okay, elder gaze, let me hear you make some noise.
And Elliot Page versus Tessa Thompson. So
These are the new girls in town, okay? Like,
absolutely. And so this is going to be the way that we conduct this one. We hope that you join us. We hope that you have fun. And we honestly, I can't speak for Louis, but I have a feeling very excited to see what is going to end up as the winner.
Yeah, I think I do have a soft spot for like Lily Tomlin, like because I think she's truly like a living legend.
She's
and
also
she has,
the only cast member of 9 to 5 we haven't covered yet. So
and we need to rectify that. No, truly anyone would be amazing. A lot of interesting movies across the board. How many X-Men movies will we watch if we get Elliot Page or Ian McKellen? Okay, there's gonna be some, X-Men United in here.
Those guys, they just get like living off those X-Men residuals, I'm sure.
100%. And thank God. So okay, that's that. We will see you guys for that on Instagram. Voting starts May. We're gonna do like different rounds. So like May 12th, there will be one that goes up, and then a couple days later, another one will go up, et cetera, yada yada yada. But okay,
Louis has seen the little versus screens that I've made for it, and they're fun.
They're so fun. Okay, Gavin, I have a question for you.
What is it, Louis? What is it?
Are you more of a Willem Dafoe or a Willem Defriend?
I am. Oh, I got nothing for. Wow, I am unprepared for that. My yes-anding skills.
Wow,
boy.
flopping.
Sorry, I failed out of Upright Citizen Brigade. So
you Willem deflopped.
I'm Willem deflopped.
You're Willem deflop.
I'm more Willem to neutral. Thank you very much.
Willem de lawful neutral. Willem de nooch.
Willem de nooch. I mean, very Stanley Tucci sounding. Oh boy, this episode, Willem Dafoe.
Oh boy.
Oh yes. Boy.
Yes, friends, listeners, we're covering Willem Dafoe on this episode. My favorite little goblin king.
Truly. I don't think we realize, like, we picked this, we're like, Willem Dafoe, he's great. Like, truly great. Like, why would we not? And I don't think we realized that it would be actually a really monumental task, which is stupid on our part. But
yeah,
he has something like 200 credits, and a lot of those are like bits as himself or like narration and documentaries. And we won't be covering a lot of that, but like he's just so ubiquitous when it comes to the amount of work that he does.
Yeah, it's he has been Tucciing about.
Yes.
Like I watched, was it A Most Wanted Man? And I just like kept watching it because I was like interested in the movie, but I was like, oh, he's not really in this. Like, yeah, he's like, fifth on the call sheet. Let's just say that. But yeah, he there's a little bit of Tucci effect, but on top of that, he also, I didn't realize, in the 70s and 80s and 90s perhaps, was like the #1 fucking Oscar bait go-to actor. And I was like, boy, oh boy, if I have to see one more of these boring fucking Oscar bait movies. And I think we'll get into this, but I was like, is Willem Dafoe good in this, or is this movie just like really trying to like do something? Like,
right.
He has a very interesting career, very interesting like, shifts in work where I'm like, these why are directors casting Willem Dafoe just to be like plain Joe #1? Like, right. I don't get that. And he listen, should be the Green Goblin at all times.
But I'm sure as an actor, he does love the ability to play range, and it is nice to like a good example. And like I'm sure we'll talk about it later at some point, but like a good example is the Florida Project, where like he really was drawn to that because he was just playing a normal guy. And that was
Mm-hmm.
that was the sort of thing that he wanted to get out of that movie. Versus obviously, like you mentioned, Green Goblin, like where he's just, or Speed 2, where it's just face, face,
Yeah.
face.
Full
Um,
kabuki, like kind of
yeah,
like this man acts with his body.
he
Like,
really does. And
eh,
it's yoga, it's dance, it's like all of it. It's
honey, that's
we'll talk about
downtown
it.
New York. Okay,
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah,
full impact.
I love him talking about, and once again, we'll get to it, but like, I love him talking about his theater work and whatnot. And when he talks about his theater work, he's like, I'm not talking about like Broadway. I'm talking about like, like minor theater companies. Like he talked about how, the theater company that he helped launch, they got all these notices for one time where they did this play where they'd cast a 92-year-old woman in one of the roles and she couldn't make it every night. So they just wheeled out a TV and let her pre-recorded performance play against him. And people are like, oh my God, so avant-garde, so
Yeah,
new wave and cutting edge. And he was like, no, it was just necessity. It was
right, guys. That's just the way it is. Is that the same theater company that Frances McDormand's in?
might be. I'm not sure.
Because I just realized right now. Well, she certainly is in the same milieu,
Yeah.
and I don't think she's as a physical as him. But and I'm also just realizing they're both in Mississippi Burning together.
Yeah.
Anyways,
She's the
she
highlight of that movie. But we kind of like
but we'll get to that later. But I just realized like, oh, they're kind of contemporaries, and that like she plays straight everyday girlies, and then also will play like really
right.
outrageous out there roles. So yeah, interesting to think about Willem Dafoe. Honestly, like there's a lot of that Oscar stuff I'd never seen. Like I had never seen Platoon before. I'd seen that GIF of him
Yeah.
dying.
I've seen Platoon many times, and my brain was just like, when I got to that scene, I was like, oh yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy in the poster. Like,
Right.
brain
Right.
just didn't.
I think like the first time I clocked like, oh, that is Willem Dafoe, probably was Spider-Man.
That makes sense.
Because I was a lot of his movies are super adult, like
Yeah.
before then, and I wasn't casually as a high schooler and younger like going out to watch fucking Platoon or Mississippi Burning, like
Right.
um
You
and so
you
this
weren't
was
like the Last Temptation of Christ, baby. Like,
oh my god.
like
The way that I watched that, I put that movie on, not really didn't do any research. I was just like, oh, this one, it's on Amazon Prime. Let's just press play. And then like the credits are rolling, and I'm like, Martin Scorsese,
yeah.
David Bowie.
I will. Oh my God, David Bowie, amazing. One scene just blows everything out of the water. My first Dafoe experience, I would have to say, is the aforementioned Speed 2. And I remember specifically because Speed 1 was rated R, so I couldn't see it when I was a kid until it came to video. And my parent, like I've said before on the show, my parents didn't really have like restrictions on a lot of the things. So I saw Speed a lot as a kid, and I was like, oh my God, they're making a sequel, and
Yeah.
being a dumb kid. And I remember like begging people to take me to the drive-ins to see Speed 2, and I don't think anybody did. And I think I had to see it on HBO, and then was like, oh, this sucks. But
who
yeah.
was the bad guy in Speed 1?
It's Dennis Hopper. And that's why, like, listen, I don't even want to go off on a rant on Speed 2 already, because it is a bad movie, so I do not want to defend it. But I think like Dafoe gets a lot of slack for the movie, or not slack, but gets like a lot of like flack. Thank you. I was looking for one of the ACK words.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of flack specifically for Speed 2 because he is so outrageous and over the top and just like at his most like wide-eyed. But if you look at Dennis Hopper's performance in the first Speed, he's also rafters.
I was just about to say, like, they basically were like, we need the same genre
Right.
of guy who like crazy, maniacal, like kooky booky, and that they got him, gal.
He just doesn't have as good a dialogue as Dennis Hopper has, because I still quote to this day, I'm not insane. Poor people are insane. I'm eccentric.
and cut and print, babe. Okay. Willem Dafoe. I'm excited for this. Gavin, why don't we get into the rewind?
William, that's right, you heard it. William James Willem Dafoe was born on July 22nd, 1955, which puts him at a nice 69 years old.
Nice.
He was born to his mother, Mariel Isabel, and his father, Dr. William Alfred Dafoe. He has 5 sisters, and he has said in many interviews that they really helped raise him because his father was a surgeon, his mother was a nurse. They were not home.
Yeah.
They were working together, and he just truly did not see very much of them growing up.
Your parents work together, they're gone. It's a tribe. You've got a chaotic household. You got to find your identity. My way was, I was the, believe it or not, the comedian or the prankster,
Just talking real quick about the surname Dafoe. It's so funny because he went through 2 different, besides the fact that his name isn't really Willem, he went through 2 different pronunciations of Dafoe as well, because when his career originally started, he was using Dafoe and now uses Dafoe. And apparently it's a huge back and forth in his family about what the correct pronunciation is.
Dafoe does not have the Hollywood glamour pizzazz.
That's probably why he switched it up, baby, because everybody else was already saying it Dafoe. So
yeah.
So nicknames. When it comes to Willem, essentially he received this nickname in high school, and it is in fact the Dutch version of the name William. And so he started going by it, and he said at a point it just became sort of second nature to him to answer to Willem, and that Willem actually felt more like his real first name than William ever did.
My father was William. I came from a big family. Billy didn't really suit me. I think from a very young age, I sought a nickname, and someone gave me just Willem as a sloppy way of saying William, and it stuck. And then by the time I was a performer, it felt kind of unnatural to change it back. I didn't like the idea of a stage name. So the irony is that the nickname became my real name.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's just like me.
Yeah, no, it is one of those just truly a chosen name. And I love that. I love that it's not a stage name. It's literally what he prefers to be called.
I also love, I love that there's a cultural thing going on there. It's literally, part of his heritage. Also, LOL, Appleton, Wisconsin reminds me of the Yankee Candle lady who was like, I went to all it was like the Bed Bath and Beyonds or something.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, I went to Appleton. I went to all these places in Wisconsin. Hilarious. And that is, and also because he has a very European.
Yes.
Something. And I think, and again, to go back to I don't know, there's something ingrained of him, this the heritage of it all. And he, if someone told me oh yeah, Willem Dafoe is fully from somewhere in the UK, I'd be like, yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, he lives essentially in Rome currently, so that's he feels very intercontinental, or
he feels a lot more elevated and fancy than Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Sorry to any of our listeners in Appleton,
Wisconsin.
To Appleton. Yeah.
So, I'm sure it's lovely.
We are horrible New York City bitches, so sorry.
I used to live in Milwaukee. Okay, I understand, and it was lovely.
I lived in South Glens Falls, New York, so I understand. After attending Appleton East High School, he went to study drama at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and then he leaves after 18 months. He's like, I'm done. And he joins the experimental theater company Theater X
oh my God.
Before moving to New York City in 1976.
I just want to know what the radical underground theater scene in Milwaukee was in 1976 or 1974 or whatever.
I actually do too.
I bet you they were doing freaky deaky stuff. And also the name Theater X. Okay, girl.
In New York, he starts apprenticing for the director of the avant-garde theater troupe, the Performance Group. And unfortunately, that starts to fall apart when tensions in the group start happening between his mentor and the other members who had begun staging their own productions outside of the theater group. And he was like, you're not including me?
A coup.
Guys, you don't want to hang out anymore? The director of the group ends up leaving, and the remaining members and the remaining members end up renaming themselves the Wooster Group. Dafoe is part of that new group and is to this day considered a co-founder. He continued his work with the group all the way into the early 2000s as well, during this time in which he's basically blowing up and becoming a mainstream movie star. So I've heard him talk about this, where he kind of would go in and do these shows and then go do movies, and he would come back and people would be like, why are you coming back? But that's because it was his passion. That's what, he is, we're going to bust it out. So we might as well bust it out now. Is he a movie star? Is he an actor? I think he's a capital A actor. Like this,
100%.
this art is his life. This is what he wants to do. And you can find interview after interview after interview of him discussing, like, he does not care about the celebrity nature of this. He cares about the truth of performing and being somebody else, and like digging deep into that person and finding out what makes them tick and putting that out on the screen. There's a great little interview clip from our former guest, Christy Puchko, who was on our Michael Keaton episode, where she was interviewing him about Nosferatu. And she was like, you're such a legend. And he's like, well, I wouldn't go about that. And she's like,
when you say craft, I think, really? Because the truth
You're
is...
a four-time Oscar nominee,
really,
sir.
The truth is, I just like doing things in a framed situation. And I like a camera being there and me just walking from here to there. Then, if you give me a task on top of that, and a character intention, and an accent, and a beautiful costume, and a beautiful setup, it compounds and compounds, and then it becomes a real adventure, and you become almost hypnotized into this other realm. And I like that. But it always goes back to, I basically like doing things. I like washing dishes, you know what I mean? This is a celebration, this is a meditation on the miracles inside your body and inside your mind that you don't even participate in. They happen without you. They're happening, and you got to get out of the way and let them do their thing.
It's so interesting because you can literally just look, let's just take Spider-Man, and take him in his role as Green Goblin, and then Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, both masked individuals at some point, both unmasked at others. It's so clear that Tobey Maguire is a celebrity, and this is not saying like he's worse, or like it's not a judgment call, but it's just like him up against someone like Willem Dafoe, where it's just so clear the motivations and like how inward they are with their work. It's just, the contrast is so clear. And even though like he's in these big blockbuster movies like Spider-Man, I think he talked about it. He was like, I wanted the mask to not move. I wanted to like give this performance. And so it's super interesting that like no matter what he does, no matter how big the movie is, he always has that inner core of like, I'm an actor.
And that's this is way jumping ahead and we'll get back to this, but like even doing the latest Spider-Man that he did with Tom Holland, the reason he did it was he said, I'll only do it if you let me like do the glider stuff. Because like that's the physical nature of it is what he's interested in. Because
Gavin, I'm having a significant moment. He's a very physical actor.
Yeah.
Like it is informative of like there are some actors who their celebrity and star power and like comes from like being themselves. I think Jennifer Lopez is like that. There's some actors. I just brought her up because of course that's who I am. But like actors like that where it's like their celebrity and star power is like the character that they have. Whereas like someone like him where it's like he needs to like really be in the muck of it all. And you can see that in a lot of the movies that he chooses.
I'll do you one better. George Clooney, who I think is a good actor, but a large part of his performance is the fact that you watch him for being George Clooney.
Correct.
And Willem Dafoe, you're like really watching him inhabit a space. There's also a bunch of great interview clips where he talks about his face, where he's like, I don't think about my face.
I don't think about my face ever. My face does its own thing. And if you think about your face, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot because I don't work my face. My face is an extension of my body and my body does its thing.
And I think that's very true. And that's why you get some of those bigger moments. I keep making, for those of you watching on Patreon, you're seeing me do it. But for those of you just listening, I keep making these like hand gestures, like big eyes, but he has these like huge round orbs in his skull that just pop out of his head.
And then he also has like those really expressive crow's feet around.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's every wrinkle on his face. And people say this all the time, like, oh, there's stories in that face. But like, you look at someone like Willem Dafoe, and it's like, there are fucking stories in that face. And he's telling them, and he's like constantly telling them to me with those wrinkles.
It's so funny. And I won't name the actor, but I just watched a trailer for, there's a rom-com that's coming out this summer by a very well-liked director. And I watched the trailer, came out like a month ago. And one of the male leads, I was like, oh, the amount of digital retouching they're doing on his face is so apparent just in the trailer. And I was like, but this is a very real job, folks. If I've not talked about it on the show before, there are people who are hired who are special effects artists who go in. A lot of times they're hired by actors themselves. It's part of their contract. Go in and I think I actually did talk about this on the Sandra Bullock episode. Their job is to like retouch an actor's face every frame of the movie to make sure that, I'm not going to say who it was, I guarantee Willem Dafoe has never had his face digitally retouched unless the part has called for it.
You can cut this or bleep this. It's all right.
It's funny enough, it's but you got the right. Watch that trailer again. Fucking watch that trailer again. It's like you are not, your face does not look like that anymore. I'm sorry.
I guess I didn't like really, I was so uninterested in I was like, whatever.
Well, because I think lets his wrinkles show a bit. He's not as young as he was, and I don't think he cares.
No. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Dafoe made his film debut as a this is a supporting role in Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate. That is not true. He was cut and fired from Heaven's Gate. He's literally in the background. He's in like one of the cockfighting scenes, but he said, he was out there for 3 months as part of the 8-month shoot. Heaven's Gate, famous disaster. We're not here to really talk about Heaven's Gate, but essentially he was out there for 3 months for this shoot, and they hired him because they thought he could speak Dutch and he could not. Oh. And essentially he says like he laughed during a scene and Michael Cimino was like, "You're out. Like,
wow.
Get out of here."
And a woman next to me told me a dirty joke. And I laughed. And Michael Cimino, who had his back to us at the moment, heard this, turned around, and said, "Willem, step out." And everybody was like, and I laughed, and I went to my hotel. I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Just go to your hotel." And that was it.
You're kidding.
Good start.
So that was like his failed, and like, so he was like, film acting is not for me. I'm not doing it. I'm going back to the theater. Goes back to theater and ends up in a play that Catherine Bigelow, film director extraordinaire, who has not made her first film yet, sees him in and was like, "Oh my God, I need this person to be the lead in my movie." So she casts him in The Loveless in 1982. That film comes out, and it is a film co-directed by Catherine Bigelow and Monty Montgomery. I believe they also co-wrote it. It's a very Motorcycle Club. It's very The Wild One, Marlon Brando. And yeah, did you see the Wild One? Did you see The Loveless?
I did. I was like, it's very like erotic vibes only. Like
very vibes only.
Cool writer. Like it is cool. It's if Grease 2 is Cool Writer, but like serious. Like it's just just vibes, and also like erotic. Like the motorcycles are erotic. All the guys are erotic to each other and to the girls. But like it's just, I was like, vibes, just vibes.
And there's a lot of like tit for tat with him and the women in the movie. Like a lot of like, "Oh, can you ride that?" And,
yeah. "Oh, you think you're so bad, but did you even do this?"
That motorcycle of yours, you really be a nobody.
Yeah. A real deadbeat. So what's a bum got to do to drive this thing?
key.
Yeah,
Oh, where'd you even come from? Oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
it's
It's very that. um, I like it because it is vibes, but I kept my problem with it, and maybe I'm just broken from years of like David Lynch movies, but I was like, is it gonna get weird? I like kept waiting for it to get weirder, and it just doesn't.
well,
And
I mean, like, not that like being gay is weird, but I was like, are they gonna kiss? Like,
right,
or
yeah,
are they
yeah.
gonna like fuck this motorcycle, or like what is going on? Like, I don't know. Like, the vibe is just these guys puffing up their chests around motorcycles, and I'm like, but I don't know if I liked it. I liked the vibe. I don't know if I needed a whole movie of it. But there's that.
I think that starts this sort of path of him doing these kind of rockabilly type roles. And I feel like his next budget, he's got a very small part in The Hunger, and then he does Streets of Fire, which is wild. And I really hope you got a chance to watch it, but you look like you perhaps not.
I did not.
Okay. We need to watch at some point. Let me tell you, I've seen Streets of Fire twice on the big screen. Oh my God, it's so good. It's like a fantasia of nonsense. It's like a rock musical that exists in a world that is both the 1980s, but somehow the 1930s hasn't ended. And Willem Dafoe kidnaps Diane Lane, who's the singer of a band, and like is holding her hostage, and her ex is in town, and he like gathers together a motley crew, which includes Rick Moranis.
Oh my God, you're
yeah.
saying all the right words. Diane Lane, Rick Moranis.
Yeah, and once again, musical to go save her. And there's like literally a scene where Willem Dafoe has like flock of seagulls hair almost throughout the entire movie, where it's like high, like almost Wolverine, like high on the sides, like kind of widow's peaky in the middle, and he's wearing like pleather overalls with no shirt and just like carrying a sledgehammer. I was like,
that's camp, mama.
yeah, I was like, is Willem Dafoe hot? Willem Dafoe's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like have such a fond place in my heart. It's so funny. The film anthology here in New York City just did a Willem Dafoe like retrospective like a month ago. And Dan and I were trying to figure out something to go to just to see on the big screen. And he picked Streets of Fire. And I was like, oh my God, you want to see Streets of Fire? And he was like, well, now I don't. Like, you're being weird. And I was like, too late. You already said it.
Yes.
Like, we're going. And yeah. And so we went. And funny enough, that movie started half an hour late because before showing it, they had showed The Last Temptation of Christ. And Willem Dafoe was supposed to show up to do the Q&A, but not only did Willem Dafoe show up, but fucking Martin Scorsese showed up to do the Q&A together. Yeah. So we did not get to see them. They like clearly escorted them out the back, but I was like,
wow.
Oh my God.
Wow. If you're not watching, I like almost fell out of my chair just then, like at the news of that. That's maybe living in New York is crazy.
It's wild.
Scorsese's like, what? No, I'm not busy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm only like still directing films and by like late 70s, 80s, whatever is going on. But it's fine. What, Francesca needs another TikTok? I'm in. But yeah. So highly recommend Streets of Fire if you've not seen it.
Looks like I finally ran into someone that likes to play as rough as I do.
Yeah, this must be your lucky night.
I'm lucky? I guess maybe I am. And you're dumb. Real dumb if you think you can pull this off.
I think you're forgetting something. I got the gun.
I can get guns, smart guy, lots of them. Now, why don't you tell me your name?
Tom Cody. Pleased to meet you.
I'll be coming for her. And I'll be coming for you, too.
He also does Roadhouse 66, which is a dumb comedy with Judge Reinhold that I saw. But he does get to sing in it. And you know what I love? I love when an actor sings.
We do love actors singing.
So but once again, it's part of that rockabilly thing. And I think he really doesn't break out of that until William Friedkin's 1985 To Live and Die in LA, where he plays a money counterfeiter and also an artist, also a psychopath, who is being hunted by William Peterson. And yeah, funny enough, I saw To Live and Die in LA with my friend Karen, who I also saw Streets of Fire with for the first time. Clearly, she's a Dafoe fan. She's
Clearly.
she's a
She's a friend of Dafoe.
Yeah, exactly. And without spoiling it, something so crazy happens in To Live and Die in LA that I've still never seen in another movie about 15 minutes before the end of the movie that I literally like turned and looked at her and just stared at her until she like acknowledged that I was staring at her because I could not believe something as crazy as that happened in this movie.
I had never seen this movie before. I watched it and I was like, this movie is like so. What I realized is like, God, what are those like? Not Hot Fuzz. Like I was like, this is the like origin story of Hot Fuzz, and every movie that wishes they were like the action-packed, fun, sexy, kind of unhinged like movie. I was like, oh, this is the text,
right?
For all of that. But yes, the ending of this movie is so kind of like unreal or like it doesn't follow a traditional kind of narrative story. Or I mean it does, but like it's not like the traditional 3-act thing. And I absolutely dove right into. I was like straight to Google, what is the discourse on this movie? Yeah, I really like this movie.
I did too, and it's great. Was not received well. Was not one of the only things to come out of it positively was Willem Dafoe. It has since been reappraised, and I think that's what you were probably finding is that a lot of people nowadays are like, "Oh my God, one of William Friedkin's masterpieces." At the time, people were like, "What is this action garbage?"
I think I did read that, but also like I love the music.
Oh my
is
God. It's
Wang
Wang Chung, the whole soundtrack.
Yeah, but I was like, this is a motherfucking vibe, but like that's entertaining and like I also just kind of love the main character is not like a famous person. He's just kind of like a regular hot who like
it's William Peterson who would then go on to do CSI, but I know from Michael Mann's Manhunter. So
right, all those words you just said, like not a famous person, just like a normal.
That was for the one straight person in our audience. Thank you.
But I also, I love like the beginning of the movie is like, I was like, oh, this is so cliche, but I was like, oh, it's only cliche because they did it first and everyone else did it afterwards, where it's like the partner who's like, I'm about to retire in 3 days. I was like, well, he's going to die. Of course he's going to die.
Yeah. Red flags just popping up behind him. Like,
yeah. But I love this movie. I think Willem's really good. And but again, he also like is going on this like path of like, he's a fucking villain. Like he's just there's the rockabilly kind of angle that he's into, but also like people are like really just casting him as fucking villains all the time because he's got that very maniacal face.
He truly does. And I think he gives off that vibe, which is so funny because it's not like he is a physically imposing figure because he is so trim, but it is that like aura of like, oh, what the fuck is this guy gonna do at any moment?
He's got Slender Man like energy. Like that guy has some troubled thoughts.
His next big hit comes in 1986 with Oliver Stone's Platoon, which we mentioned before. Platoon is a Vietnam story. Oliver Stone himself had been in Vietnam. He really wanted to tell like authentic Vietnam tales about how awful that war was.
I bet you that there are a lot of straights out there who are like, yo man, fucking Platoon, that's what I fuck with. Like it's very hard for me to watch a movie that stars Charlie Sheen and take it seriously,
especially in 2025. Yeah,
I mean, like, and beyond the like horrible things that he allegedly has done, to me the only way I can read him as an actor is in like those satire movies.
Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part D.
Correct. Like everything. That's how I read him as. And like I didn't watch this, but like the 2.5 Men of it all. Like,
yes, yeah.
He and so when this movie started and he was like, "Grandma, it's hell over here," I was like, "Is he joking?" Like, there's just a disconnect. And I will say though, like on top of that, the vibe of this movie, even I can tell it wants to be serious so badly. Yeah. But like it is so over the top. I mean, and that famous meme gif of Willem dying is kind of like proof of that. Like he was And even like the bad guy who like allegedly kills him, or
Yeah, Tom Berenger's character.
he's so over the top also. And it's
Yeah.
the movie. I think I wrote on my letterbox, this is toxic masculinity as a movie. Like it just is.
Right. Well, here's my thing. I very much understand why it is considered classic, because I do think that there is, especially at the time, no one was talking about how bad,
Critiquing it. Yes.
and especially like how bad it was for when, which we'll get to with another Oliver Stone Vietnam film, but like how bad it was for people who fought in that war when they came back as well too. Like it was sort of a movie created to dispel the American myth of like we are always doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think where the movie kind of is flawed is that's not really the message that comes across. The message is like there are fucked up people in the world, and like they do fucked up like the badness of Vietnam is like kind of the background of that movie, and it becomes this story about like these awful people specifically doing awful things. And I know that the implication there is like, well, if this one person's getting away with it, there's so many more people who are getting away with it too. But that's not really what the movie feels like it's positing. It feels like you're just watching one bad person instead of a systematic bad.
Yeah, I don't think the critique is like sharp enough, because in the end, like my takeaway was like, even though I was like, I could tell that he was trying to go for this critique, takedown, whatever. What I went away with was like him talking about, if you are ruthless enough, you can get through anything. If you don't care about fellow man, if you don't care about anything but yourself, you can survive, diva. Right. And it kind of like hollows out the movie for me.
Yeah, I get that. I will say, just on a technical standpoint, Willem has mentioned many times in many interviews that you can watch him. So he had the detonator on him for his squibs as he's running through the jungle. And so they really didn't have a lot of time to take it more than, multiple takes. So it's like all these extras running after him. He's running, he has a thing in his ear that tells him, hit the thing now. He hits it. And he said, you can see it in the movie as he's like opening his hands to get shot, that he just throws the detonator out of his hands after because he's already pressed it. So like the squibs are going off, and he just throws it. Like he's like, incredible. Yeah, you probably shouldn't see that.
Yeah.
I'm communicating on a walkie-talkie. Everybody else is up in the air. Nobody's even near me, because you see one of the shots is very, very big, so they don't want anybody around. I'm detonating my own charges on my body, and I know basically where all the explosions are in the ground. So I've got to do a little dance. You're totally involved because you're pretending and you're really thinking what it would be like to have all these guys coming after you and have these other guys abandon you. But I've got all these technical obligations at the same time. And also, I think in the movie, I shouldn't say this because it may spoil it, but I think you can see that I've got the thing in my hand.
Really?
And before I reach for the heavens trying to be saved, you see me tossing.
He gets nominated for an Oscar for this.
Yes, Best Supporting Actor at the 59th Academy Awards. And yeah, he's another one who has said, I feel very much like the Denzel, like he's not like commented that it's like hurt him deeply, but I've seen interviews where they're like, do you remember who you were nominated? He's like, I remember every single one of them. He's like, I could tell you who won on those years.
Dang.
Like, yeah. So,
Interesting.
I do think while he isn't in it for the accolades, I do think when you get put into that system,
how can you not be competitive?
Right, exactly. He also does another Vietnam movie that comes out shortly after that, Off Limits. It's him and Gregory Hines, and they're detectives trying to figure out like this murder that's like this murderer who's sort of getting away with killing women in Vietnam. And I didn't think it was a great movie, but I did want to point it out because it's one of those that he was like, it essentially really got overshadowed by the like wave that was Platoon, and therefore like no one noticed this other thing that I'm actually kind of proud of. But yeah, I didn't love it. Also in 1988, though, because that movie came out in 1988, comes the next movie that comes out is Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ. We've brought it up a couple times now. It's based off a novel. It is a sort of a retelling of the Gospels, but not necessarily like a direct adaptation of the Gospels. And essentially, it comes with the idea of like, what if Jesus was more. What if Jesus, like his last temptation was like accepting his role as the Son of God, as the Savior, and not just willingly like accepting it the entire time and being like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, this again, I thought this would be a very normal kind of like Jesus movie. This is not a normal
No.
Jesus movie. It's like kind of Christianity fanfic. Like it's what if it's Marvel presents what if Jesus got off the cross and was like, you know what? I do want to fuck. I do want to be normal and like not have this pressure. The temptation is like to live a normal life. Like
Yeah.
the temptation is like I don't have to be this martyr and be like, the Son of God. It's a long movie.
Yes.
It's a very sensual movie, I would say. I was like, oh man, these guys are like sleeping together in the desert, and like Jesus is very much like, come, my men, and like let me hold you. Like
abandon your families, which, by the way, like that is actually a thing that's in the Bible if you read it. But that's what. Let's not. Don't let me preach the Bible to you. But like,
yeah, I think but yes, I think like what's kind of bizarre about the film. I mean, there's a lot that's bizarre, but like you watch all this run up of like, okay, this is like normal stuff. Like, I guess, Jesus getting his dudes and, kind of trying to preach the gospel. And then you get to the actual crucifixion. We pass David Bowie as Pontius Pilate. And then like the real thesis or like thing of the, like, and it's a long time, until we get to him seeing like,
yeah.
Spoiler alert, like the devil disguised as a girl is like, hey, Diva, let's get down from there. And he's like, okay. And then there's like a big chunk of the movie where time passes and he grows old and, is just like a normal dude. And then at the very end, he's like, oh God, what have I done? Like, I do want to be on the cross. And it's kind of like, he wakes up from the dream and he's on the cross again and the movie ends. I was like, oh God, this is like, it's kind of like a kind of very laborious film to get through.
It's funny because I've never thought it was laborious. I do like every time that I go to watch it, I am like, oh, 3 hours. But I do actually think like that 3 hours is well done. And I have heard the criticism before that people are like, oh, it really only gets to that bit in the last half an hour. But A, it's based on a book. So Scorsese is adapting a book. But B, I think in a way, Scorsese knows he's not going to be able to do this without controversy. I mean, I think he even said he wrote the script and sent it to his lawyer, and his lawyer was like, why don't we sit on this for a while? Like, his lawyer was like, it's great, but like,
yeah,
because it's not going to be. And there was huge boycotts or protests. As Willem Dafoe, which, by the way, I think says a lot about his politics, the religious right was just looking for a cause, and that became their cause du jour at the time because they feel the need to be persecuted.
I had no idea it would be controversial. Its intention seemed so pure. It was exploring something that had to do with spirituality. I didn't anticipate the problems that happened. I think that was a particular time politically that the religious right needed an issue to kind of circle their troops around, and that became it.
I think if you're going to make the movie, I think you kind of have to do the Gospels. And yeah, sure, it takes a long time to get there in the movie, but I think you have to adapt it in order to like appease that part of the audience. Because if the whole movie was just that bit, then I think that then it would be so much worse for everybody involved, because they'd be like, sacrilegious, what are you saying about our Lord and Savior and whatnot? It's hard when you're dealing with religion. And I mean,
and they did say that. They said it's blasphemous. I don't think it's like I didn't dislike it. I just was like, and he's very good. I mean, like,
Yeah. He went blind. He went blind for 3 days because Scorsese, it was a very surprisingly low budget movie for and it doesn't look it. And I will give Scorsese so much credit for that. But he wanted Dafoe to have an otherworldly look about him. And so the concept they came up with is that his pupils would always be dilated. So they were constantly dropping eye drops in his eyes, and he lost
Crazy.
his sight for 3 days.
crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Would Sydney Sweeney do that?
Yeah.
Huh?
What is the name of that nun horror movie that she did? The Immaculate. It's not very
yeah.
immaculate of her. The
Now, why is she in it?
yeah, now she's sitting at home.
I know.
Listen. Also in 1988, because he's a busy bee, he does not want to be outdone. He does Mississippi Burning, which is another film we've also mentioned. Mississippi Burning is very, 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 very loosely based on a real incident that happened in which three civil rights workers, 2 white, 1 black, were rounded up by the KKK and killed in Mississippi, and they sent the FBI to investigate.
I don't even think it was in Mississippi. I think it was in Pennsylvania.
It's in Pennsylvania?
I want to
in fictional Jessup County, Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, I think because I did like read up a little bit.
The real case was in Pennsylvania.
The real case, the real guys were in
Okay, sorry.
Pennsylvania.
I was confused as well. Sorry, yeah, you're right. No, you are right. You are correct. In the movie, it takes place in Mississippi, which is why it's very fictional.
Which is, go ahead.
No, yeah. I don't have a ton to say about this movie. I think there's good performances, and I think Gene Hackman's very good in this movie. I think Willem Dafoe is very good in this movie. It's funny because Willem Dafoe said that the last week of filming, Gene Hackman took him out to lunch and was like, "You're doing great, but could you give me like colors on your character or something?" Willem Dafoe was like, "I'm the straight guy. I'm giving you what, like, that's not what I'm doing. You're here for that." As you mentioned, Frances McDormand is in this movie. I think she's the true
good.
highlight of it.
Yeah. She does so much with so little. It's incredible.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But like, I think in the end, it's like, to me, I was watching this, and not to bring up Scorsese again, but I was like, this is the bad version of Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, this is the version that, like,
yes,
it's all from the white perspective. It's all like just about the white people. And it is one of those movies where, like, we're going to teach you about racism, other whites, and we're just going to do it solely through white people. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I think this movie probably had very good intentions, but like watching it, I was like, what? Because like Gene Hackman is like, what flower is this, y'all? And like the black people magically start talking to him. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I even wonder about, because they were found, like this thing happened in Pennsylvania, but they were like, we can't sell that. What we can sell is Mississippi, like burning. Like it just feels, even though they probably had like the right intentions, they were like, we need to make this as neatly packaged a product that people could understand. And it's just icky. It's icky and gross. And like
Let's get something straight, all right? This whole thing was fucked up. The moment we turned it into a show for the newsman.
The moment those 3 kids disappeared, it was news.
The moment the 3 civil rights workers disappeared, it was news. To me, they're just kids. They're still missing.
What's missing is the 15 minutes Pell said he was with his wife.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly not my favorite. He also has a big year in 1989. He does Triumph of the Spirit, in which he plays a Jewish Greek boxer in a concentration camp. That movie was roof stuff.
Talk about fucking Oscar bait. I was like, okay.
Yeah. He also reteamed with Oliver Stone for the Vietnam biographical war drama Born on the 4th of July, starring Tom Cruise. Dafoe plays a paraplegic, wheelchair bound Vietnam veteran who befriends the film subject Ron Kovac, played by Tom Cruise, who is also another paraplegic. Willem Dafoe doesn't come into this movie until I want to say like 2/3 of the movie are over. And let me tell you, he is a bright spot in that movie. I don't know if you watched this at all.
Nope.
Okay. The thing that's I saw this movie at least twice when I was a kid, of all things. I think my parents were just like
Really into
very-
Vietnam.
Yeah, well, they or just like kind of like our country's fucked up, like do what you will with it.
Yeah.
But also kind of like we're working all the time, so entertain yourself. But the and like I rewatched this and I was like, man, this movie, like I get, and again, once again, it's like I totally get what Oliver Stone's going for, and I think it's good that this movie exists, and like but like it's not great, and I think Tom Cruise is actively bad for large portions of it, and so yeah, it's tough to get through, but Willem Dafoe's really fun and horrific when he shows up. Like his mood swings wildly in the film. I mean, there's the very famous paraplegic fight between him and Tom Cruise in the middle of the desert where they like fall out of their wheelchairs fighting each other. Yeah.
Can I ask you, I think I realized this while we were talking, from kind of the jump, he started working with a lot of auteurs. Like it's kind of like, wild that we're still like in the first decade of his, career, and he's already worked with Scorsese, Oliver Stone, Friedkin. Like it's just kind of like, I mean, even, his first fucking movie,
Catherine
with
Bigelow.
like it's, it kind of
I
like
mean, even Walter Hill, Streets of Fire, which is like he's kind of a minor auteur when you think about it, but like all of his films like have a following and whatnot, except for The Assignment, which we've talked about twice before and hopefully never have to talk about ever again. But yeah,
it's just interesting, like, it's almost like he was hatched out of this egg and like immediately put into like Oscar-y kind of like everyman, super director's actor, type of guy. And I just don't think that happens too often, like,
Yeah. I mean, I truly think part of it is that he's willing to go for it. He's willing to just really do it. Like there were so many actors who passed on Last Temptation of Christ, and I think part of that is he's just willing to like really do the work and very cool with like being into it. In 1990, he does a cameo in Crybaby. It's so fucking funny. And he does David Lynch's Wild at Heart with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, and he is one of the highlights of that. I love Wild at Heart, but he's truly one of the highlights in that movie. Like fucked up teeth, the whole like there's famously the scene where him and Nicolas Cage are in the stocking caps and his face is just mushed into it like nightmare fuel. Yeah,
I saw that movie at drive-in during the pandemic.
Oh, nice.
Here in New York City. Yeah, fun.
Wild at Heart.
Those are dummies. Dummy.
Okay. Why don't you step up here, hotshot? I'll slap that smile right off your face.
He also has like a pencil mustache in that movie, and I guess that comes from the fact that he had just worked with John Waters on Crybaby.
He's like, hold on, I have an idea.
Yeah, I got one for you, David Lynch. And David Lynch, I've heard, is very amenable when you do that for his films. You're like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like he's trying to move out of villain territory, but he still keeps getting cast in these.
I was just about to say, like, going into the 90s now, though, I think the era of Oscar baity stuff kind of like is petering out, and now he's doing like the TBS TNT dad movies.
Yes,
which I'm gonna be honest, like I didn't watch a lot from this era. I have seen some of these from like our past episodes. But I was like, oh, he's just like a cop. Oh, he's just like,
right.
Like, and it's
a great example of that is one of the next movies, White Sands, where he's like a person
One that I did watch.
Yeah,
And I was like, okay.
yeah, caught up in. I love New Mexico. And that's what I will say about White Sands.
It's actually not sand. It's gypsum. I was like, what?
Oh my God. And fucking Mickey Rourke, who we've now had to deal with in
Rourke.
actual news.
I know. Maura Tierney, who's like barely.
Yes.
I was like, what is going on? That movie kind of was like wild to me. I was like, they're trying to do the double backhand spring twist, round off back. And I was like, girls, make a coherent movie. How about that?
And I'll admit, I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was great. I will say, any time that you get to see him and Samuel L. Jackson together, so good. Oh my God. Yeah. Just watching two people eat the set. Back and forth.
Samuel Jackson, another goblin actor.
Yes, absolutely.
With eyes that will pop when they need to.
Yeah. And in the same year, which is 1992, I believe, he also is in Paul Schrader's Light Sleeper, which is his first film with Paul Schrader. I believe he goes on to do 4 or 5, which is funny because he's also about to enter the Abel Ferrara era, which I think he does 4 or 5 Abel Ferrara movies as well too. And I think your tolerance for Paul Schrader or Abel Ferrara will vary depending on how you feel about their work, especially now that Paul Schrader is just going through his own really shitty Me Too thing, which, by the way, boo. Reading that, I was like, fucking heartbreaking, man. Come on. Don't be shitty. Just don't. It's not that hard.
Gavin's take, guys, don't.
Guys,
don't.
Babe, no.
Yeah.
No, babe, no. But yeah, Light Sleeper is so fucking good. Oh my God. Yeah.
Fuck.
I know you're gonna have to take my word on that because he plays a high-priced drug dealer who runs his drug ring with it's him and Susan Sarandon, and I cannot remember the name of the third actor, and I'm so sorry to this man. But he's playing a homosexual, not Willem Dafoe, the other man, yeah, because there's clearly tension between Susan Sarandon.
Dana Delaney,
yeah, Dana Delaney plays Willem Dafoe's ex, and she wants nothing to do with him because they used to get high together, and the thing is Willem Dafoe doesn't sample any of his stuff anymore. He just stays out of it, but it's one of those things where she's like, please don't come into my life, you will ruin it. And at the same time, there's a bunch of weird deaths occurring around them, and there's another high-priced drug dealer named Tisk Bruges who's played by Victor Garber in basically dressed as Mike Myers from the Sprockets sketches from
Incredible.
SNL.
You'll still talk to me, won't you?
You?
Yeah.
Of course I will.
It's just thinking it's gonna be so weird without you around. It kind of just hit me.
We'll always have Paris.
Johnny.
And you want me, just call. Write a letter, tell a wino, I'll be there.
Yeah. Also, real quick, Jane Addams is in this movie, who is a complete underrated actress. I think she's very kind of monotone and therefore never got her big breakout but I love Jane Addams. Yeah, I highly recommend Light Sleeper. And also, I do want to say a couple years ago on this show, I gave my 5-star review of the year to The Card Counter. And I maybe would not have if I'd seen Light Sleeper beforehand, because they're almost essentially the same movie, except take Abu Ghraib and make it drugs.
Wow.
And there you go.
A retraction.
Yeah, but I still love The Card. I truly, really do love The Card Counter, and I love Light Sleeper. And once again, I feel complicated about both of those things because it turns out Paul Schrader is kind of a creep.
Yep.
Which is also not surprising.
But Gavin, how do we feel about body of evidence?
Oh my goodness.
I remember us talking about this in our Madonna episode with friend of the pod, Trana Wintour. Hello.
Yes. It's so funny. I put out the schedule for that this was coming up, and the first comment somebody was like, "You have to talk about body of evidence," and I was like, "Well, we did in our Madonna episode."
Yes.
But I'm more than happy to talk about it again. If you don't remember, Body of Evidence is a 1993 film in which Madonna plays a woman who kills people with her vagina.
Yes.
And
Evil vagina.
Yeah. And Willem Dafoe is her defense attorney attempting to get her off in more ways than one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Famously, is it like an elevator hookup that then extends into a parking lot?
There's a parking garage.
Yeah, parking garage.
They're in a parking garage, and she like gets on top of the car.
Yes.
But also, if you remember the scene where they're like at the restaurant, and like she's seducing him, like mid dinner or whatever.
Look around.
You want me to look around the room and tell you if there's someone here that has the same taste that I do?
That's right. All right. Who?
I'm not going to tell you.
You're not going to tell me?
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Why not?
Because he doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, I think it is funny and interesting to see like he is playing this kind of like submissive guy to Madonna, because Madonna's playing to the rafters, like, and like her whole thing is obviously like, you know, this dominant woman, sexual woman, whatever. And he's kind of like, as an acting practice, I guess, like the movie is like ridiculous and crazy, but I think it is interesting to see him play this kind of like crumpling, like willing to like kind of, you know, fall apart,
a wilting flower, if you will.
Yes, but like, and she is testing the boundaries of him, and he's like letting her.
And it's funny because like Julianne Moore, which is funny, we did not talk about this movie really in our Julianne Moore episode, but Julianne Moore plays his wife, and she's sort of the like everything Madonna is not, except for when she gets to slap her across her face towards the end of the movie.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it is interesting because you're so used to him, like you're saying, like playing heavies.
Yeah.
That to play this kind of more demure, very mindful character, that it does stand out in his filmography.
Correct.
I'm like kind of speeding through just a bit, but
Please do.
But I do want to say that he plays John Clark in Clear and Present Danger, which was the third Jack Ryan film, and I only want to mention this because my dad loved the one John Clark novel, which I think has since been turned into a movie by Amazon, which means nobody saw it. But starring Michael B. Jordan in this character role. But the novel was called Without Remorse. And then when my dad heard Willem Dafoe was playing him in the movie, he was so excited. He loved this movie. And he was so mad when they never made a Without Remorse movie with Willem Dafoe. He wanted it. He wanted it so bad. But yeah, that's all I wanted to mention about that. 1994's Clear and Present Danger. If you want to hear more about that, I don't know, listen to a straight podcast.
Not this is not that show, babes.
No. Also in 1994, he's in Tom and Viv, which I saw for another episode and have no idea what that episode was. And
I watched it for this episode. I think it might have been the first thing I watched for this episode. I can't see anyone in this cast that would make us.
No. I truly don't know why. I know I watched it though. Whatever. It's not great. T.S. Eliot's an asshole. And yeah.
It's Trey didn't like the session. and then things fell apart. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. 1996, he makes a cameo appearance in Basquiat, and I'm only bringing that up because that's directed by, it is directed. That's directed by Julian Schnabel, who he will return to later on in his career. And Julian Schnabel is also an auteur, even though he hasn't made that many films. Like, he makes very specific films, and I think that's why. But he also does The English Patient, which we talked about in our Ray Fiennes episode, and he's so good. And it's such a good counterpoint to the Ray Fiennes plot in that movie. And I don't know, I always forget he's in it. And then I watch the movie and I'm like, oh, he's so good.
I only saw this movie for the Ray Fiennes, so I didn't have like this, kind of return feeling to it. But I remember him just because like he is in that section when Ray Fiennes is like fully like being, taken care of, or like the titular patient, if you will. Willem Dafoe's character is such a manic and like desperate, presence and all that.
Yeah.
To me, he like really stands out. He's like the third leg in that like triangle of people who are like fucked up.
You think he's a saint because of the way he looks? I don't think he is.
I'm not in love with him. I'm in love with ghosts. So is he. He's in love with ghosts.
What if I told you he did this to me?
How could he have? When?
I'm one of his ghosts and he wouldn't even know it.
I don't know what that means.
Ask your saint who he is. Ask him who he's killed.
But it's funny, if you think he's like in full awards baity mode, think again, because 1997, Speed 2 Cruise Control comes around.
That's what I'm saying. Like Tom and Viv and and English Patient are like, okay, a little return to awards bait stuff, and we're back.
Yeah, absolutely. What can be said about Speed 2 Cruise Control that's not about Willem Dafoe? I don't really know. We talked a little bit about it in our Sandra Bullock episode. I think it ended up maybe being one of our 1-star reviews. I don't remember
think so.
though.
Well, maybe yeah. I remember us talking about how Keanu's not in the movie.
Keanu's not in the movie, and also I think the worst sin of the movie is that like Annie is not Annie. In the movie. Yeah. It's like, so not only do you not have the same returning man, you really don't have the same returning woman. So there's nothing that makes it Speed. And Willem's trying his best. He's playing a villain who's got poison in his blood and has leeches that suck the poison out, and he just wants his revenge.
Right. I mean, who amongst us?
Speed 2, a lot of people give me a hard time about that. They tease me about the size of my performance, that it was over the top. But I swear to God, I stand by that performance because there was no other way to do it. I've got a pretty flexible face and expressive face, and I don't censor it. I let it do its thing. I don't put on faces, but I know for a fact that my face can do some really extreme things. And so when you freeze it into a meme, yeah, you can get a lot of laughs out of that. That's for sure. Sometimes you do things and people just aren't ready for them, or it's the wrong time, or it's the context is wrong. Maybe I misread it, but for my money, I stand by that movie.
Oh, I do want to mention, by the way, about a decade before that, he was considered for the Joker for 1989's Batman, and people like still say that to him to this day. But he has said like nobody ever contacted me, so like they may have been. Yeah.
Thinking about it, they had a meeting, did not tell me about it,
right,
and then didn't like go with me anyway, so doesn't really matter. I mean, the thing is that like we have had subjects where it's like they went away for a while and then they came back or whatever. He has always been working, always. Like maybe things have changed, like he'll do different things here and there, but like he really has had just all the opportunities. I mean, what a career. I mean, I imagine there are a lot of people who are envious of him in his career just because he's never really had to take time off. He's never really,
right.
And because he's so, and again, like we've talked about this, he's so deeply invested as an actor. I'm sure he has other things that he loves in his life, but like it's
speaking Italian.
But it all comes back to like, oh, I'm gonna go make that freaky deaky little movie. I'm gonna, leech his guy with poison blood. Yes. Like, I think like there's, like you said, there was nothing that will turn him off from potential role. It just it's in him.
Also, 1997, he does Affliction, his second Paul Schrader movie. I don't really want to spend too much time on Affliction because he's such a small role in it, even though he's kind of the narrator. But it's a fucking amazing movie as well. Like, it's so good. It will make you feel terrible. It is the feel bad movie of 1997, but it's so good. He also does, indie film Lulu on the Bridge. He does Abel Ferrara, his first Abel Ferrara collaboration, the cyberpunk film New Rose Hotel with Christopher Walken and Asia Argento. He's very good in that, but it's I didn't feel like he was like Christopher Walken's the real showy performance, and so he's kind of the straight guy to Christopher Walken.
I love this era though because like things like New Rose Hotel and then like Existence, like
small role in that.
We're and even like Boondock Saints, like it's the like 90s action, era for him. I mean, I guess like kind of Speed 2 is in that lane too,
Right.
but like he is not really coming for the Oscars. He is
Right.
He's like locked and loaded and ready to fuck shit up.
I don't want to stop on Boondock Saints because I hate that movie, and but
again, straight guys that love this movie. It's this and Platoon,
which is funny because he's a gay guy in it, which is the famous interview quote.
He's gay, but he has a special connection to classical music. There's many things that are interesting about him.
Representation matters for my husband.
Representation does matter, yes.
But yeah, he does Mary Herron's American Psycho in 2000, and I think what's interesting about that is the fact that 5 years before he would have been playing, or 10 years before he would have been playing the Patrick Bateman, but he's like the police detective hunting him down and whatnot.
Yeah.
Also in 2000, he does Shadow of the Vampire. I think people are kind of split on that movie. Shadow of the Vampire is Willem Dafoe's first brush with Nosferatu. It is a fictional account of the making of Nosferatu, in which F.W. Murnau, who is played by John Malkovich, hires an actual vampire to play Nosferatu during the making of the film. Also stars Susie Eddie Izzard as one of the lead roles, and Udo Kier, who I absolutely love, and Carrie Elways. It's a lot of fun. It's a very big performance. He's really just like all fingers and like the whole time, like tell me now, did I eat one of your people? That sort of. But yeah, he's playing the actor Max Schreck, who it's so funny. This movie is based on a lie, where people claim that nobody saw Max Schreck out of makeup and nobody but people did. He actually was in other movies as well too. But
it's actually been filmed, babe.
Yeah, but it's a fun time, and it's a good. I wish it was paced better, or there's something off about it, and I can never put my finger on it, but I think he's fun in it, and I think he's having fun, and he of course gets another Academy Award nomination for supporting actor for playing this role.
The script girl, I'll eat her later.
No, you will not. Our bargain. You agreed not to hurt my people. Listen to me. Do you understand? This requires that I go back to Berlin to find another photographer and then to fly him back here. And you will control yourself while I am away.
I don't think we need the writer any longer.
Like I said, it's one of those that kind of divides people, because a lot of people think he's being too much, and other people are, think he's doing just fine.
I feel like I want to do a double feature with Nosferatu and this movie.
Yeah.
That would be
Well, I mean, if you want to see the range, him playing the monster and then him playing the Van Helsing character,
yeah,
that's range, baby. 2002, Spider-Man. Detective John Spider-Man. He plays Norman Osborn, the most classic Spider-Man villain you can find. Rich psychopath who has ingested a serum that has turned him into the Green Goblin, split his personality right down the middle, and he said Sam Raimi like gave him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to read before starting the movie and whatnot. And I think this is, like you said, it's really puts him in the modern context in the minds of the modern audience. And it's such a delicious, he is eating the entire time. You know, even just those moments where like he's at Thanksgiving and he goes to get something and Aunt May slaps him on the hand and is like, Norman, do the honors, and hands him the knives to carve the turkey. And he just looks insane. Like, yeah.
Or every Peter, like this the way he says it. And I mean, there's a lot of voice work in there because when he's just has the mask on, and I love all his like, rah, like
it's so funny. A lot of people, including me, have an issue with The Shining because Jack Nicholson doesn't do anything to differentiate between crazy Jack Nicholson and Jack Nicholson before he's crazy.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I honestly think like Willem Dafoe's doing a little bit of that here, but he's getting away with it because it is like a kind of cartoony comic book movie. But I mean, even just like at the beginning when he's like, I'm a bit of a scientist myself, you know?
Yeah. It's like, oh, is that foreshadowing?
Yeah. But yeah, truly, I don't know, just a great performance.
Yeah, totally. He gets to be like, I mean, he manifests the Goblin. He becomes from Goblin actor to Green Goblin.
You know what's really hilarious too? Because he's supposed to be playing like a rich, like vain, he wore fake teeth for Norman Osborn, but when he plays the Goblin version of him in the mirror when he talks to himself, they took the fake teeth out just so he could have his normal kind of messed up grill, I guess. But like, I love his teeth. He's a real person.
What do you want?
To say what you won't, to do what you can't, to remove those in your way.
The board members. You killed them.
We killed them.
We?
Remember your little accident in the laboratory?
Performance enhancers.
Bingo. Me, your greatest creation.
That just kind of, from there, I think like people sort of start seeing him in a more mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he was already mainstream, but like more like he does
Blockbuster.
He does like Finding Nemo after that.
Yes.
In 2003.
Yes.
He shows up in Robert Rodriguez Once Upon a Time in New Mexico, he shows up in Robert Rodriguez's Once Upon a Time in Mexico. He plays a James Bond villain in a video game. He is the villain in James Bond 007 Everything or Nothing, playing the villain Nikolai Divolo.
Incredible.
Yeah, so like he's really kind of getting this sort of blockbuster angle, and that allows him to do things like showing up in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, the Wes Anderson film, which is his first collaboration with Wes Anderson. You know, he shows up very briefly in The Aviator for Martin Scorsese. He, once again, on the other side of this, does Triple X State of the Union, the sequel to the Triple X movie. I watched. He does his first Lars von Trier film in 2005. So yeah, it is just like moving back and forth. You know, he's doing Spider-Man 2. He's doing Manderley for Lars von Trier. You know, so he ends up in American Dreams. I know you love American Dreams.
I love American Dreams. Oh, wow. I mean, we talk about the 13 degrees or whatever of Kevin Bacon. Like, we need to be talking about the degrees of Willem Dafoe.
Also in the same year, or maybe the year before American Dream, like he does Ripley's Underground, which is the Ripley film no one talks about because it's bad. He does Spike Lee's Inside Man, which we've had a billion opportunities to talk about between Denzel Washington and
Jodie Foster,
like, and Spike Lee himself. So
yes,
he's great in all these places he popped up. I do want to say in American Dreams, he said his character his character was described as a diminutive version of Dick Cheney with wire-rimmed glasses and a fringe of white hair, which is correct, technically.
Which is correct, yes.
I'm just trying to figure out a few things.
If you wanted more info, sir, why did you cancel the weekly briefings?
Because I'm not sure I'm getting the straight poop from him, that's all. I mean, Iran and North Korea are not just like Dr. Octopus and Magneto.
You don't like cartoons? Fine, they're gone. Joe, we're trying to help here.
2007, he does Spider-Man 3, but also does Mr. Bean's Holiday.
Uh-huh. I mean, just whatever, tooching about.
Yeah. Yeah, he will pop up in anything. He also does Fireflies in the Garden, and in the words of that nun who died when calling out Katy Perry, Ryan Reynolds, please stop.
Please stop.
Please. Yeah. Back with Paul Schrader, Adam Resurrected, back with Lars von Trier, Antichrist. I did not rewatch Antichrist. I've seen it before. I like it. I know a lot of people have very complex things to say about Lars von Trier and his relationship with women.
I did not watch that. I mean, it's crazy. Like I was like, in my head, I was like, you know what? I did okay this time around. As we're going, I was like, I did not do okay this time around. There are so many fucking movies. Holy shit.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's 200. He does more Wes Anderson, Fantastic Mr. Fox. He does more Abel Ferrara for 44 Last Days on Earth. Dan and I watched that together. It was terrible. We were not into it at all. He does John Carter for Disney, which Disney was banking on being a huge hit. He does a
LOL.
Yeah, total failure. Does a motion capture performance in that movie. I actually like that movie, but we'll discuss it another time. He's also doing motion capture in video games.
That's so cool. I have to say, like, it's so cool that he I mean, I know people do it a lot now in video games because they're very lucrative, but like he was doing it since 007, like in the 90s, you know, like lending his face and doing voice work for that. And like to do something like with Elliot Page and Beyond Two Souls, huge blockbuster game. Like it's just, there are a lot
which
of like
apparently is now being turned into a movie without either of them, but
that's crazy. But like, I think it speaks to him and his like not snootiness around, the gig. I think I love that he's able to find the art and the acting no matter the medium.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really fucking cool. I mean, like, it would be very easy for us to like shit on a lot of these movies that are very bad, but like I still respect that he's like, you know what, I'm gonna fucking do this like crazy weird direct to video whatever. Like he doesn't feel precious.
Yeah.
Which is I think for someone of his caliber, he could, and everyone would be like, "Oh, Willem won't even read the script." Like, no, like it's really fucking cool.
But what you're saying by us shitting on some of these independent films, you saw Odd Thomas. I don't really want to stop and talk about Odd Thomas, but it is to date Stephen Sommers' final film, unless Stephen Sommers as in The Mummy. So that makes me sad. Like
that's sad, yeah.
R.I.P.
Anton Yelchin.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing that makes me sad about it. Excuse me. 2014, A Most Wanted Man. You mentioned it before. He's not really in a ton of it, but I think his part's really good, and I thought that movie was really good.
Very good. Philip Seymour Hoffman's last movie.
Yes, yeah. And they have a couple good scenes together. Not as much as you'd want them to, but like Grand Budapest Hotel, which we talked about in our Ray Fiennes episode. I think he has fun when he goes to do Wes Anderson. I don't think Wes Anderson always challenges him.
Yeah.
I think specifically Grand Budapest, he's just kind of like, I did not see The Fault in Our Stars. I've still not seen The Fault in Our Stars. I'm assuming you have.
I have. He is not like, if you don't know, The Fault in Our Stars is about this girl who's dying from cancer, and she wants to go meet an author who wrote this book that she loves. And so her and this little liver boy, fucking guy, whatever, they decide to go to Amsterdam to meet the author because she thinks that it will somehow bring some like kind of completion to her life, or kind of she'll understand the way things are because she feels like his novel really speaks to her. And the author is played by Willem. And I think the book is very good. The film is fine. Dafoe, I think here gets to play like a lower temperature than perhaps we see him a lot of times.
And then he was like, "Do you want my autograph?"
Yeah, yeah. Peter!
Peter. 2014, he's in John Wick. There's so many people in John Wick over these years that I'd forgotten that he was in John Wick. But he's great in it. And yeah. But that's once again about taking risks, because that was a movie that, I think, it's famously been talked about how like couldn't find financing and finally like
Yeah.
was financed. And like, so it's cool that like he was willing to be like, oh, hey, I'll come do this. And I'm sure he didn't get paid a ton for it,
Right. Yeah, it's one of like the hot new IP properties. Like,
Yeah. Dog Eat Dog, which was his 6th collaboration with Paul Schrader. He did that in 2016. It's trash. He does Crazy, The Great Wall, which it's Johnny Mao's first English language movie with Matt Damon. A wild,
hilarious
movie. Yeah. I think he's fine in that movie, but mostly bad cast all around. 2017, The Florida Project. It's a kind of a big deal for him because he's been moving back and forth between these wild swings of like these indie films that nobody's seeing. I mean, literally the year before that, he was in a film called Sculpt, I want to say is the name.
Yeah. Loris Giraud's art house science fiction film Sculpt.
Yeah, which was only screened for one person at a time at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. And so like he's doing stuff like that and then doing The Great Wall. And so I think The Florida Project was, he's described it as like he wanted to do it because he's a normal person, but also I think it was a grounding force for him to kind of bring him back to like he's not having to do these kind of like
crazy
because
he's at the extremes of both those things, right? Like
right.
An art house, literally an art museum piece to like wannabe blockbuster with like Matt Damon as a Chinese guy or whatever. Like
he's not a Chinese guy. He is a white
I know
guy,
he's not a Chinese guy. I know, but there's like
yeah.
Yes. But to your point, like I think the Florida Project was a very like resetting, back to basics thing for him. I know you have some thoughts on the Florida Project. Like people love this movie. People love this movie a lot. I think you don't love this movie as much as most people do.
I don't.
I love this movie a lot, but not for him. I'm kind of like hung up on like him in this movie. I like those fucking kids rock my world. I hate children actors, but Little Mooney, it's watching it the second time around for this, I liked it less than I think I did at first. But I just kept thinking like, do we like Willem Dafoe here because he's doing a good job, or do we like him just because he is like the calm and like grounding force in the center of all these fucking crazy people who keep making bad decisions?
Right. I mean, I have a problem in general with Sean
Florida.
Baker, with Florida. I'm very mad at Florida all the time. With Sean Baker, I think a lot of his movies have a tendency to feel like poverty tourism. I think the way Sean Baker presents these characters, whether or not he's trying to be neutral or not, and I just don't know if he just doesn't have the ability for it to come off as neutral. And trust me, I like this movie a lot better than I liked Red Rocket, but I had a very similar problem with Red Rocket where it feels very much like gawk at these people and gawk at their lives, and they don't feel. I know that he's attempting to present people that a lot of time you do not see on a movie screen, but I don't think he presents them realistically a lot of the times too. And yeah, I know he uses a lot of untrained actors, and I do think those kids are great. And I think, those kids are not trained actors, but also like he's not really necessarily presenting the reality. Like there is a script or a plot line, dramatic arc that has to occur in the film. Like he is laying that on them, and there is an artificial reality to it that feels more like tourism to me than it does any sort of real emotional depth. And I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. A lot of people see this and they feel very attached to it. And that's fine. Like if it works for you, there's plenty of movies that work for me that don't work for other people, and that's perfectly fine. But for my taste, I just feel he's a little more exploitative than he is um presenting something as like a, he's not one of the helpers in the world, I think, and that's fine. Once again, like I'm trying not to, I'm trying not to be judgmental about it, but I don't ever connect to his work in a way that makes me feel, I feel kind of gross about it. Like, and I put a lot of that on him because he doesn't belong to this world, to that world either. And so it just feels like an outsider, like trying to present to you a world that they're not a part of in a very extreme way, to be like, but look at this, look at how these people live. And that is gross to me. So,
I think that's a valid criticism. I mean, like, I probably am like maybe halfway there with you on that, because that is not his world. Or I mean, I guess I don't fucking know Sean Baker, what he does in his life, but, and there are parts where it's like, oh, it is extreme. It is extreme. Like, um, but I do think that there are enough moments in this film where I'm like, you know, there, this movie could easily be like, the mom and the grandma who's downstairs who gets mad, like they get into like a real fucking fight, whatever. But like,
Right.
there are moments of like humanity that I think kind of, at least to me, make it feel not as like voyeuristic, like, just looking in. I do think like, even though that there are like these really hard to like, and really uncomfortable things where it's like this family trying, can't afford to go to the other hotel, and, you know, and having his character pay for them in the end. Like, I think there are enough moments that kind of feel like a solve on it, because, and thankfully, like if it was just like the hard critical, cringy, like, oh, look at these fuck ups type things, it'd be really,
Right.
really awful. But, I keep thinking about like, the kids just like having the ice cream, and like, or when she's like, look, I took you to safari, and it's like the cows. Like, there are enough like those human moments to me that kind of balance it out. But I hear your critique, and I think it is valid. Because I mean, and that's all of his work. His work is
Right.
all that.
And like also, I, you know, I'm not saying everybody where I came from is like this. And in fact, I wouldn't even say half the people from where I came from before living in New York City are like this. But I have experience with people that are like a lot of the subjects in his movies. I came from very lower class origins, and it and I think like there is like maybe a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about presenting that on film in a way that feels judgmental. And so like
Yeah.
that could also be my own bias coming into the, so like I also don't want to be like, listen, my viewpoint is fully just the only thing, that
Right.
exists when it comes to these.
Yeah, I think like, this movie specifically, I think succeeds in that these kids are making up their own Disney World, right? Like they're
Yeah.
in a fantasy magic land. Like they have to make it themselves, because they can't, they don't have access to this dream, like the real
Yeah.
thing. And I think
And like just, and not to interrupt your train of thought, but also like the fact that dream that's being sold to them is also fake.
yeah,
That it
right,
is like
right,
a capitalist sort of disgusting, like hey, like
right,
this is the thing that you should want out of life, and really all it is like a bunch of rides and like a
right.
bunch of people playing dress up.
Right, like, is it better to go to Disney's Animal Kingdom or whatever? Is that better than, like, the cows in the backyard? Like, is
Right,
that
right.
is that really better or not? But I do think there is, like, this, I think the thing that people really respond to in his movies is that he always injects this, like, human spirit of, like, "You know what? Fuck this." Like, "Fuck this." Like,
Yeah.
'cause Mooney, I mean, like, my god, that ending scene where they're gonna take Mooney away, like her mother has kind of like been backed into a corner, and Mooney goes to her little friend's place and is like, please, 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 you're my best friend. I don't know what's gonna happen. And they just run off, and it ends with them running into Disneyland, Disney World, whatever. Like, it's just kind of like, fuck, like I, it's there was no good ending here, right? Like
Right, right.
there's, and so the last thing this little kid can do is, just run through Disney World, uh, with her best friend. Um, I'm assuming like up snuck in somehow just to get in. It's just kind of like this kind of really uplifting, moment, um, to kind of highlight and punctuate like this bitch is gonna make her dream happen. Like she's gonna get to the place, even if it's fake,
Right.
which is pretty powerful.
You gotta start to respect
Rules.
people.
Just because they're not your rules doesn't mean anything.
No, they're the company's rules. They're the motel's rules. That's the way it is.
Fuck you
I'm a very
looking at
fair
Tina.
person. Hey,
Yo,
take it easy.
listen,
Hey,
you know
people
what?
are leaving.
You're not my fucking father.
I don't want to be your
You
father.
can't fucking treat me like this. This
Listen.
isn't a
Hey,
fucking
calm
jail.
down. Calm down.
This isn't a jail.
No,
You're
no,
just
it's a
gonna
place
take
where
my
people
friends
live,
away?
and you
That's
gotta
fucking invasion of
calm down.
privacy.
And obviously his performance does not go unnoticed. This is his third Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Academy Awards. He gets nominated for the Golden Globes, the SAG Award, and the BAFTA Awards. And that doesn't slow him down at all because he does Netflix's Death Note, which the voice of one of the characters, he does along with every other working actor, Murder on the Orient Express. He's
Correct.
in...
He got the call.
Right, exactly. He's in Aquaman, playing Volko. He does Vincent Van Gogh in At Eternity's Gate, and that's where I'll pull that pin out about Julian Schnabel. Julian Schnabel, artist as well, crafts this movie about Vincent Van Gogh.
I saw that artsy fartsy fucking movie. I was like, oh my God, what am I watching?
My problem with every Van Gogh movie is no one is interested in Van Gogh. They're only interested in the illness. And to me, that's like, just like, okay, sure. Another movie about how he's crazy great.
I will say though, I mean, like between this and Last Temptation of Christ,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, whatever, I was like, he just does have that fucking old world face that
Yeah.
just makes sense. It just makes sense. I'm like, yeah, that is Vincent Van Gogh.
In 2019, he does his first Robert Eggers collaboration, The Lighthouse. And listen, maybe this is to come back to what you were saying earlier about him starting off and getting these auteurs. Maybe it's also kind of reversed in a way too, where he's just very good at finding these people who have particular visions. Because he has said, like, he's worked with directors who do not like, he's like, I don't want you to come in and tell me how to act, but I want you to come in and tell me what the world is and like what the world is you're building. And I think that's, I'm not the world's biggest Robert Eggers fan. I really like Nosferatu, but I think that's what Robert Eggers is really good at. Wes Anderson's really good at that.
Yeah.
Being like this very particular world that I want you to inhabit and then letting you go off from there.
I am also fond of The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I like I've said this because I know I have a particular hot take on The Witch. I have said this before. I think The Lighthouse is a better movie than The Witch. I would much rather watch The Witch.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well,
because
it's
it's a lot. The Lighthouse is a lot.
Yeah, girl, come on. The Witch is nothing. The Witch is light.
It's nothing. It's fun. It's light. It's breezy.
Well, it's because you're a little horror slut, and like that's why you like The Witch more than this.
But I do think The Lighthouse is a better movie. I do genuinely think it's a better movie.
I do think.
I just real quick, I know we're like running real, run it up, like we're running real close to time, but I do just want to give a shout out to Togo. Togo was a film that he ended up doing for Disney Plus. And it's a movie about a very famous sled dog in Alaska, actually a sled dog that should be even more famous than Balto, even though Balto has a statue in the movie does take umbrage with the Balto statue. It gets a post-credit thing.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not gonna like this fucking dog movie. I don't care about this. Cut to me like 5 minutes before the end, just like weeping about this dog movie. Also, shout out to Julianne Nicholson, who plays his wife in the movie, who is one of my absolute favorite working actresses currently, and was so shocked to see her in this movie. And it's a good little dog movie.
Okay, great.
Watch Togo. It'll make you cry.
Okay.
More Wes Anderson. He's in Nightmare Alley for Guillermo del Toro. Does The Northman with Robert Eggers. He's like not really in it that much, but he's very fun when he is.
Yeah, I like The Northman a lot.
Yeah, it's good. It's Norse Hamlet. Comes back for Spider-Man No Way Home, which is the third of the Tom Holland movies, and it's multiverse nonsense. I remember seeing this movie in the theaters. This was one of the first movies I think I saw after like lockdown restrictions started to ease and whatnot, and I felt comfortable going to the theater. But I remember seeing there's a scene between him and Marissa Tomei, and it's like kind of early it's still within the first act, but they're like, and my brain, this is gonna sound so mean, I was like, oh, thank God, actors. Like, thank God, people who are just gonna sit here and act for me. And it's so good. It was nice to see him in
Alfred Molina,
yes,
like
I love Alfred Molina. Spider-Man 2 is the best of the original Spider-Man trilogy, but like, even that, he's like under the like de-aging makeup and whatnot, and
that's true.
Yeah, but I was so happy to see Dafoe and Tomei just acting. Thank you.
Real girls.
Someone's living in my house. Oscorp doesn't exist. My son. Sometimes I'm not myself. I'm someone else. And every time he's in control, I can't remember. And now I'm here in this place,
Norman,
in this city, and I don't know what's going on with me. I don't, doesn't make sense.
He's lost. And I don't mean just in the cosmos. I mean in his mind.
He does Asteroid City for Wes Anderson. He does Poor Things with Yorgos Lanthimos. I do think that like that's probably something to talk about, because it is like such a performance. And it starts like a kind of, because he also does Kinds of Kindness with Yorgos Lanthimos. But I do really like that he is given this sort of monstrous looking character who you find out like actually has like a very soft and gentle heart. And I feel like he doesn't get to play that often, because he's so often cast as villains.
Yeah, it was interesting. Again, like such an extreme exterior, but able to kind of be, because Emma Stone's character is so kind of like outrageous and big, he is this calming presence, kind of is just, this thinking man. I know people kind of are like, I guess maybe mixed on the movie. I quite like it.
I liked it too, actually.
I quite like him in it. Critics loved, this. I just like, there are people who are like, Emma Stone is a baby and it's fucking cringe. But
I think it's, there's so much to talk about that feels a little hollow when it comes from two cis men. But I agree. I think I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. Like
but it's cringe or no?
No, just the where you're going with that. Like,
right. Well, I think like, she's growing up and like,
right.
Kids are cringe. Like that's
and like men are, I don't think the movie is on the side of the men. And I think you kind of have to, if you're like, I think you're maybe, I'm not saying this for the women critic. I don't know. It's tough because I don't want to say something wrong. But I think if you're you're empathizing a little too much for the men if you watch that movie and you think like, because men are disgusting and they see a full grown woman with the mind of the baby and they do not care. And I don't think the movie is being like, that's a good thing. So
yeah. No, I mean, I'll just say, I think Willem in that performance is very good. Again, like he's able to, unlike the Green Goblin, where he's all done up and is like matching his performance to that done-upness. Here, he's able to carry all that makeup and prosthetics and stuff and still be kind of like light and easy, which again, just like his range is crazy.
Yeah. And then just last year, we mentioned Kinds of Kindness. We talked about in our Gavin Louis Go to the Movies Beetlejuice, which was like kind of a throwaway role, but whatever, he was fun in it. And
Yes.
and Nosferatu, where I think he was like, Eggers like really was able to unleash him and be like,
Yeah.
Bring back that craziness that you had in The Lighthouse and just, rant and rave. And he's so good. It essentially the Van Helsing role at Albin Eberhard von Franz is the name of the character that's filling the Van Helsing role in this movie. Yeah, and we talked about that in our Gavin Louis Go to the Movies as well. We did see that together. But yeah, that really brings us to now. And just real quick, to talk about his personal life. In 1977, he began a relationship with director Elizabeth Lecomte. They have a son together who was born in 1982, and then they separated in 2004, and they never got married. He's quoted in saying in 2009 in The Guardian that they, quote, never married because to her, marriage represented ownership, and I respected that.
Way.
Seems like a good man.
Yeah.
He then meets Italian actress Giada Colagrande on the set of Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and they end up getting married in 2005. He said, we were at lunch together, and I just said, do you want to get married tomorrow? And so they literally did in front of a very small ceremony. They've worked together. I don't want to read that. Nobody's seen those movies. And him and his wife now split time between Rome and New York City, and he has actually acquired Italian citizenship, so he never has to come back to this awful place if he doesn't want to. And he does like speak Italian now, and it's funny because I was watching Tamasu, which is one of his Abel Ferrara movies, and there's like a whole thing with him as wife in that movie where he's like, speak Italian, I'll never learn it if you don't speak Italian. Feels very autobiographical.
Yeah.
He's a pescatarian, and he believes that animal farms are, quote, one of the main causes of destruction on the planet. And he's assigned letters against climate change and biodiversity loss. He's also a avid yoga practitioner. That's what keeps him very physical and healthy and young. And I wish I had that kind of mindset. But yeah. And so, like I said, I just like talking about that stuff. I mean, he's like very clearly not pleased with the way the politics are going in this country. He has said
You
so.
don't say.
I don't know where to join in. I'm an actor, and I always have a problem. I feel like I express things. I don't want to be a coward. I express myself best through my work. There's better people to talk about the political situation. But personally, our leader should be a moral leader. And I don't think we're going in the right direction. And we're a powerful country, and we have a responsibility to the rest of the world.
I'm not putting words in his mouth by saying that. I've seen him say it in interviews. Yeah, he seems like a cool guy, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. He got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame just last year.
Oh, that's awesome. I missed
Well
that
deserved.
somehow. Yeah, absolutely.
That's fair.
That's one of those things where like you sort of have to pay for it, or somebody pays for it for you. I don't know.
You have to like, apply or something.
Yeah. I'm always conflicted about it, but then I'm always happy when people do, like when John Waters got his. So like,
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, yeah.
yeah, it's a fun thing. But anyways, all right, let's get out of this place and let's talk about our 1-star reviews, because let's face it, in a career this varied, there's going to be some 1-star reviews.
Okay, listen, there are probably so many movies that I did not watch that would maybe better qualify for this. I was following along on the filmography while you were talking. We didn't mention something called Bad Country, which I'm sure is horrendous.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
I always was one click away from watching Daybreakers.
Oh, I did rewatch Daybreakers, which is a movie I didn't like the first time. So
yeah. and I never did, but again, like I was like, oh, there are some things here that like just are giving me like stink, stank, stunk energy and vibes. But I've said it before. I don't go into this looking for my 1-star review. Like it always just kind of finds me.
Yeah.
And with that being said, for me, the 1-star review is 1994's Tom and Viv. I so this movie, it's a historical drama, very like Oscar baity, based on a play by Michael Hastings, directed by Brian Gilbert. He is playing another old guy from the past, T.S. Eliot, famous poet. I
The
think
writer of the
director.
musical Cats. I'm
Hello, ever
joking.
heard of it?
Yeah, I'm joking, but it is based off of T.S. Eliot. No, regardless, whatever. Keep
Yes.
talking.
It is the story. I I don't know what this point of this movie is. It's not really like a biopic about him. It is about him and his first wife, Vivienne. They are horny for each other at the beginning, and her brother is always like, what do you mean you're getting married? She's fine, right? She's totally fine. And T.S. Eliot's like, yeah, whatever. I don't like whatever. I need to be a poet, so whatever. They get married, but it's like dramatic. But then they like have a bad like hookup or something, and basically this movie is about how she has like this mental disorder. Or they just like later they go to a lot of doctors and they're like, oh, she basically has like bipolar disorder, some sort of bipolar disorder. Um, and he treats her really fucking shittily. And at the end, just dumps her at this like mental institution. Even after the fucking doctors are like, Diva, we invented drugs for this, and you're
Right,
fine.
exactly.
And they're like, no. And she even like when they tell her like, hey, your husband has a fuck ton of money. You don't have to be here. There's treatment. And she's like, how dare you? My husband loves me. Like she's so I I don't like this movie broadly. Um for, I think there was a lot of very good notices for Miranda Richardson who plays Vivian. I think she's like I think it's a very crass movie. I think she is like very kind of crass. Um, I think the movie is impolite and like not in a fun way. It's just kind of like really clumsily handles the subject matter.
I have a right to some of Daddy's money.
Viv, there's no money to share as such. Viv, please, I'm sure you wouldn't like to go home. The solicitor will arrange everything.
What else does the solicitor have to arrange? Does the solicitor know that Tom and I sleep in separate rooms and that I've driven him to it?
You have not.
And divorce. Tom's friends say we should divorce.
There's been no talk of divorce.
I think Willem is like a little too sharp to be T.S. Eliot. Like everything feels underwritten. Everything feels like not good enough for him, frankly. And by the end of it, I was just like, are we just saying like fuck T.S. Eliot? Like there's no well-rounded
I
picture
am.
for him. Well, but I don't think it's like well-rounded enough about him to like really go deep onto that, right? Because all they're telling us is like he dumped her at this institution and then she's like mad about it, or not even mad about it, but like it's not enough about her or him for it to be a
Right.
fulfilling whole thing. And I think the performance that he gives kind of is like sleepwalking through it. Like I don't think it's like there's anything special here. It's not none of like the things that we love about him are on display here. And it's just I was like, God, I mean, between this and what was it, the Triumph of
The Spirit.
whatever. The Triumph of the Spirit. These are the ones where I was like, okay, like this director was like, we got Willem. Let's go for the Oscar. And it's just so boring. I mean, when you think about like those 90s movies that are cliche, kind of like nothing burgers that really were going for the Oscar, these are the films that, like, people satirize now. And Tom and Viv is aggressively that. Even the title, fuck Tom and Viv, like, I mean, I guess it's based on a play, but like, I don't like this. This was the watch out of everything that I was like, boo, like the most thumbs down for me. So Tom and Viv, my 1-star review.
I love that we in the end both picked 1-star reviews that nobody's ever gonna watch, but that's fine.
That's the name of the game though. With something like
Right.
this with him, it's like there's so much.
Yeah. My 1-star review, and I'll probably be pretty brief about it, is Lulu on the Bridge. It's a 1998 romantic mystery drama film, directed by Paul Astor, who also wrote the script, and starring Harvey Keitel and Mira Sorvino. And it's a little unfair of me because Willem Dafoe really doesn't show up until, like, I want to say like at least half of the movie is already over. But essentially, Harvey Keitel, Judas Iscariot himself,
Yes.
plays a saxophone. Because when you think Judas, you think New York Brooklyn accent. But he plays a jazz. Yeah, he plays a jazz saxophonist who is shot at the beginning of the film and is then sort of transformed. He can no longer play his music, and he meets Mira Sorvino, who is an actress who's struggling to get famous. And while all of this is happening, he like essentially finds a dead body with a bag laying nearby it that has a magic stone that creates a blue light that like makes everybody calm. And once this blue light is in his life and in her life, things start going well. She gets cast as the character of Lula in a new film version of Pandora's Box, a very famous book that was adapted before in silent film. And while all this is going along, Harvey Keitel, is kidnapped and held prisoner by a mysterious Dr. Van Horn, who is Willem Dafoe. And Willem Dafoe keeps asking him all this weird stuff, like his real name, childhood incidents, about catching fireflies with his brother at the summer house on Echo Lake.
I thought you could help us, you see. I had such high hopes for you. But I was wrong to trust you, wasn't I? Am I right or wrong, Mr. Mauer?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. Stanley Marr, for one thing. And the little box he was carrying with him. Do you know how precious that stone is? It took years to achieve that light. Do you have any idea of the good it can do? I'm so disappointed in you. Here. Change your clothes. You stink.
And he's like, once you're cured, I can let you go. But really, he's seeking out this magic stone. And essentially, Izzy, he gets in contact with Izzy, who's Mira Sorvino's character. He tries to hunt her down. She destroys the stone, throws herself off the bridge, and he then lets Harvey Keitel go, and Harvey Keitel like goes and talks to Mandy Patinkin, who was the movie's producer, and he's like, yeah, she just disappeared. Nobody knows where she went. And you find out, he like goes back home and watches the videos of her that they took while they're making of this movie, so he can like see her act. And then it flashes back to the jazz club because all of this has been a dream while he was dying from being shot at the jazz club. And yeah, Louis is just closing his laptop. And he's being rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, which just happens to pass Mira Sorvino, and she crosses herself as he passes. And that's it. That's the picture. And
you know what? Did you say this is 97, 94?
98.
98. Yeah. This is getting big late 90s, like, what a twist energy.
Yeah. It's just really bad, and the character Dafoe is given is nothing. Like, there's literally nothing to this character. He's just like, they're just like, "Hey, Willem, be a weird," and he's like, "Great, got it," and that's all he's doing, and it's just a bad movie, and I can't wholeheartedly recommend anybody watch it. Um, it just it feels bad. It feels bad.
Yeah.
It felt bad to watch this movie. Um, was there anything else that you saw that you didn't particularly like?
You know, I I really had trouble with Platoon. I
Yeah.
just was like, I was really trying to get there because I thought like, oh, this is gonna be like one of the big ones. Like he's really, first Oscar nomination. But I don't get it. I think he's not good. I think he's doing too much for this world that Oliver Stone has created. I don't. I, everyone is like doing a different thing, and it's bizarre. And they like made it all about that, running and getting shot at moment. And I'm like, what? I thought you were trying to make it like real. Like this is again, like I was like, is this Hot Shots vibes? So yeah, I really couldn't get on to that. I thought White Sands rough. He's good in
Fine
Mississippi
for like a
Burning.
Cinemax movie, but like,
Yeah, yeah. I think Mississippi Burning is like he's
yeah.
there are good performances in it, but it's wildly misguided. Um, yeah. What about you?
I mean, you couldn't pay me to watch Boondock Saints again. I saw it in college. I never want to see it ever again. Um, I he's in like I said, Ripley's Underground, which is like the Tom Ripley movie nobody talks about, where Barry Pepper plays Tom Ripley, and his part is really strange because he gets killed in it and it's almost like slapstick, but the rest of the movie is kind of going for like serious dark comedy vibes, and his like there's a whole like he's like an art collector, and he's like this piece of art will really put Columbus, Ohio on the map, and it's like what are we doing here? But yeah, Fireflies in the Garden, I don't think he's necessarily bad in it, but it's such a monstrously bad movie. It's like Ryan Reynolds is the abused son of Willem Dafoe and Julia Roberts. And yeah.
What? Ryan
Yeah.
Reynolds being like mom, and Julia Roberts
Yeah.
is there like,
It's Julia Roberts in old age makeup, and
Ugh.
like, yeah, it's a bad dumb movie, and
is
definitely
it?
was.
It's very like you guys thought you did something here, huh? You guys
Yeah.
really thought.
All right. I think that's enough talking about the bad stuff. Why don't we get out of here and talk about our 5-star reviews?
This might be like an unsexy pick,
It's Speed 2.
but it is Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Notice I did not mention it in the 1-star reviews, but it's not good, but I'm not saying,
But like, have fun. I like to have fun.
Yeah.
He has some pretty like big boy performances that like are astounding. But I have to just do it, and I'm gonna give it to The Lighthouse. I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just think it is a culmination of everything good, like all of his experience, all like I mean, and Eggers really knows how to fucking shoot him. Like every line on his face, it there is the quiet like at the beginning when it's like the quiet and like nothing's happening moments, and then there's like the extreme when he's like with the tentacles and everything on him, and like he gets to do all the things in this movie. And it's just kind of astounding to watch with such supreme command. I was thinking like, and oh, by the way, it only highlighted and even better for it because he has found another little goblin man to play off of in Robert Pattinson, who is in the same vein of just like, this go for broke, crazy nutso, guy. If you don't know, The Lighthouse in 2019, directed by Robert Eggers, is just about these two guys. It's 19th century. They are tending to this lighthouse in this remote New England, kind of area. Robert Pattinson's character is like the new guy, and Willem Dafoe is kind of like, the old kind of creepy weirdo guy who farts a lot and is in charge and tells him to clean up, and is also like, bitch, you better not be fucking with those birds because killing a bird is bad luck. And also is like, you aren't cleaning it well enough. You're not going fast enough. He's kind of like, a shitty manager type guy. But they drink a lot together, and he warns him like, hey girl, like out here we go mad, like, so you got to really keep it sharp. And guess what, Dina? Not only does he go mad, he kills those fucking birds. And it's just kind of, and the beginning is slow, like there it's kind of like this, oh god, like it's very quiet, long extended scenes. But then like it gets cooking, and it really gets cooking. It's just, there are so many monologues that they have to each other.
You're fond of me lobster. Say it. Say it. Say it.
I don't have to say nothing.
Danny! Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow! Hark! Hark! Triton! Hark! Bellow! Bid our father, the Sea King, rise from the depths full foul in his fury.
The goblin on goblin of it all is like when they're just like saying, what, like to each other. And I'm like, oh my God, these are just two freaky deaky little actors really going for broke. I think this movie is also funny. There's funny bits in this movie. It's beautiful. I'm sure, I have not dived into the discourse. I'm sure there's so many, like, it's actually about, because Robert Pattinson, in the end, he just wants to fucking go up into the actual where the light is. But Willem Dafoe's character,
that bit when the light hits and Willem Dafoe is like standing over him naked, and the beam of light just peering, gorgeous. And I know it's based off a painting, but like seeing it with two real people, like,
it's like I said when we watched Nosferatu, Eggers' movies are like just assaults on the senses, and like this is no different. It's use of light, use of sound, so physical. It turns into like pup play at the end. It's just not so crazy, just like Willem, and that's how I like him. So, The Lighthouse.
Well, if you're not going to pick something sexy, I'm going to pick the sexiest role of all, and that's of the Christian Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in The Last Temptation of Christ.
Wow.
1988. When we do these, I never wanted to be like, especially if I'm picking something from early in their career, I never wanted to be like, oh, he hasn't topped this. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I'm just so amazed at this performance because it is so unlike any other Willem Dafoe performance, because he's able to play these shades of a character we all know and love, or a lot of that in ways that you're not expecting. The scene where we've already explained the plot of this, but essentially it is the Gospels of Jesus, except for the very last half an hour. He's hanging on the cross, and a small angelic child shows up and is like, listen, you are the Son of God, but you're not the chosen one. You get to live your life. And he gets off the cross, and he has this whole life, and then realizes like it's all a lie, that it's funny. Scorsese has said like the key to that scene is when the devil as the little angel girl tells him there's only one woman in the world. And it's like, no, like that's not true. There's women everywhere. Like, why would you have to be fucking sexist? Like, and Scorsese has said like that's when he wanted you to know. But I think anybody should have known from but I think, the very first time Jesus goes into the wilderness, goes into the desert, and he puts the circle around him, and he's tested by all the visions of the animals and the burning light and whatnot. I think playing Dafoe has such a hard job of playing both that certainty that he is doing the right thing and he is seeing the right stuff, and that doubt. And that's the part that people don't like. That's the humanizing of
Right.
this Christ figure. But I think he's so brilliant at it. You know, there's a really beautiful scene early on in the film when he's talking to one of the men that will be his apostles, when he's like, what if this isn't it? Like, what
Yep.
if this is not, what I want out of life?
Can't he see what's inside of me? All my sins.
We all sin.
Not my sins. I'm a liar. A hypocrite. I'm afraid of everything. I don't ever tell the truth. I don't have the courage. When I see a woman, I blush and look away. I want her, but I don't take her for God, and that makes me proud. And then my pride ruins Magdalene. I don't steal, I don't fight, I don't kill, not because I don't want to, but because I'm afraid. I want to rebel against you, against everything, against God, but I'm afraid.
Like, I'm seeing all these things, I'm hearing all these things, but like, what if that's not me? What if, like, and it's really beautiful. I think he's able to play these very, very human moments in this character that's not perceived by many people to be human or to have
Right.
human wants and human needs. And I think it's a really difficult balancing act to pull that off. On top of that, he faced criticism from all over the place. I think he said that the Sergio Leone, the famous composer, once said about him, that's not the face of our Christ, that's the face of a killer, and so, like, there's all these criticisms you could say about him, but I think he's actually like a really brilliant choice. I think that final shot of him on the cross, that face he makes, is all the proof you need that he was perfect for it. And I love that Willem himself just kind of treats it as like, yeah, it was a role I played, whatever. Like, it's not a big deal, eh, and life goes on, and I did a bunch of other stuff after that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a really beautiful movie. I once again feel like it's kind of a cliched pick, but it's I just think no one was doing it like him, and because he's so out of the box in playing
Yeah.
this role, it really played off gangbusters for him.
What I love about this movie is, and I think I'm like less warm on it than you are, but what I do love is the beginning is him making these fucking crosses that they are
Yeah.
hanging people on. And he has this doubt and shame of like, well, I've already had this like sinful, horrible fucking life. How could I be the chosen one? How could, like,
Right.
didn't you see what I've done? And so there is so much contradiction. And so you're right. And like, he's having to, it's a very difficult role to play, not just because it's fucking Jesus, but because Martin Scorsese has imbued all these really complicated feelings. Like, what would happen if a fucking human guy was like, oh shit, I'm, the chosen one. And like, do I deserve this? Am I worthy? Can people really follow me? Like, is it just, death
Yeah.
and destruction? Like, wouldn't it be so much easier just to like be a normal human person? So yeah, I think that this is a very technical, like, the technician he is as an actor is on full display here.
Yeah, there's so much nuance to it. I do want to give one last shout out to a particular scene in the movie, and that's the famous Pontius Pilate scene. Pontius Pilate, played by David Bowie, as you mentioned earlier. And I think there's a great place to ruminate on what's being said in that scene too, nonetheless, which is Willem Dafoe as Jesus keeps being like, I just want to preach love. Like, I want to change things for the better, and I want it to be about love, loving each other, loving your fellow man, helping each other out. And Pontius Pilate basically says, that's great, and it's nice that you believe that, but the problem is that you want to change things, and it doesn't matter how you want to change them or how good you think you're being. It's that the people you're up against don't want things changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true for for this very particular moment in time as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that really struck me in this rewatch. I was like, yeah, it's about the fear of change, and the people in power don't want that to happen.
Right, and it's also like a very powerful portrait of like Christianity's like alleged main tenet, right, of preaching love, and acceptance, that more frequently than not seems to be looked over, passed over for other selfish, non-Christian things, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any other performances you saw that you particularly liked? We don't have 3 hours, by the way. So.
I think How to Live and Die in LA absolutely bangs.
Oh yeah, To Live and Die in LA. Beautiful.
Yes.
Gorgeous movie.
Gorgeous. It's just fun. He's really fun. I think, Poor Things, Nosferatu, like he's got bangers in there too, guys.
Light Sleeper, seriously, Light Sleeper, Streets of Fire, like these are all earlier stuff, but honestly, like newer stuff, seriously, I'm not joking.
Fucking
Togo, just so good.
Also,
and the Florida Project, I'll give the shout out. I think he's great in the Florida Project. I don't think he's the reason to watch the Florida Project, but I think he's great in it. Yeah.
Correct. That's correct. Okay, let's do our mixed reviews review before we get out of here.
Excellent.
My 1-star review is 1994's Tom and Viv.
And my 1-star review is 1998's Lulu on the Bridge.
My 5-star review is 2019's The Lighthouse.
And my 5-star review is 1988's Last Temptation of Christ.
Cool. Let's get into our fast forward.
Willem Dafoe is not slowing down. As we mentioned before, he's only 69, so nice. He's not going to stop. This year alone, he has many films coming out. Literally just a week ago, he had The Legend of Ochi, which actually I was going to give it my 1-star review. I did not like this movie. I thought it was really bad, and I thought him in particular, he was not directed in the same way everybody else was, or he just didn't, like, he thought he was in like a Wes Anderson comedy and everybody else thought they were in a drama. It's not good. But I just, Lulu on the Bridge was the one I was like, no, I need to give it 1 star for this. But upcoming at The Man in the Basement, Late Fame, The Birthday Party, and Wes Anderson's next movie, The Phoenician Scheme, which I believe comes out this year. So he's certainly not slowing down by any means.
It's just so wild. Like, how can he be so productive? How?
I truly don't know, especially like living abroad and like,
yeah.
And, but it's the art. He lives for the art. He lives for the applause. The art.
Lady Gaga. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think there are probably, like I said before, I mean, how do you get this career? How do you stay this booked and blessed? How do you have such range with like the roles you've been doing? He could literally do whatever he wants now, thanks to Spider-Man. But guess what? He was already doing whatever he wants before that. I think like I would love to see like what does a like real comedy look like with him. What I don't like. Would love to never see him be a cop again. And not that he has been. I think he's been like choosing kind of like really interesting, weird stuff. And hopefully, I think he's kind of like, yeah, I did all my dad movies and now I'm just being like weird old man. And guess what? I kind of like him better as weird old man. I kind of like that he's just like, gremlin-y all the time.
But I also understand what you're saying about a real comedy, because he does comedic work. And I think, but it's oftentimes in very ornate sort of, like he does a lot of comedic work for Wes Anderson, but Wes Anderson's so precious and stylish and that, like, I get that where you're saying that, like, I also wish, like, I kind of wish he could be like Florida Project mode in a comedy.
Right, and that's exactly where I was going because like he's such like a kind of like imagine a curmudgeon dad next to, like I don't know, Kristen Wiig being like crazy
Right.
antics. Like Kristen, oh my god, Kristen Wiig's as a daughter?
Well, okay, for a long time there was a lot of talk about them remaking Tony Erdmann with Kristen Wiig and for some reason Jack Nicholson, and Lena Dunham was going to write it. Jack Nicholson, Lena Dunham, bad choices. Kristen Wiig maybe could play that role. I think I don't know if she has the depth for her, but I think if you paired her with somebody truly as wild and with the range of Willem Dafoe, you could maybe get away with it. But also I'm maybe spouting a curse into this world and maybe should not.
I don't know. I think also wild that he hasn't been a James Bond villain like in
A real one outside of a video game, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason like the inspirational stuff like I don't need that. Like I just need him
Yeah.
to like, be the freak character actor that he is. And
I mean, I think he's on the right path. I think if he continues working with Robert Eggers, I think if he could, like, he's found all these like you said, auteurs that really want to give him stuff, but not the Julian novels. Like, I would love to see him work with Scorsese again. I would love to see him, like, I'm not going to shit on him because he has worked with plenty of women directors, Mary Harron and Catherine Bigelow. Love to see him work with a woman again, though. I could live with. This is going to sound like I'm being a hater. I'm not, because I really did like what was the Yorgos movie?
Poor Things.
Because I really did like Poor Things. But I think he maybe doesn't need to work with Yorgos again because I hated Kinds of Kindness. And I kind of don't need that mode. But yeah, like I like where your brain's at, because I think he could do that. Also, I'd love to see him on stage, but I feel like if I do see him on stage, it's going to be like a very weird.
Yeah. I just realized, I mean, like American Dreams, kind of a comedy, satire like thing.
Yes.
Like maybe more of that. Like that's super cool. I just don't need to see him with a gun again. Like it's just like.
And that was part of my problem with Ochi. It was like he was playing that guy with a gun, but also was supposed to be like his character. I felt like we were supposed to laugh at, and like, I don't know. That movie's a mess. Beautiful puppets. Beautiful
gowns.
But yeah, I did go to see that last Saturday and was like, Yikes-o-rama.
Which, I mean, so that kind of like brings us to like a natural ending, but I also just wanted that. I bring that up just because it's like a nice little hopping off point, because we announced this on Blue Sky, or did we talk about this somewhere? Like the Alamo Drafthouse strike is over.
Yes, no, we haven't talked about it yet. Yeah, the Alamo Drafthouse strike is over. Yes, we are going to be renewing our Alamo passes. We are going to restart up Gavin and Louie Go to the Movies for all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for everybody who's stood by Alamo during that time period. We were not willing to cross the picket line. We did investigate some other options. There was one that looked really good. It was sort of inconvenient for both of us, though.
Yeah.
So we really kind of waited it out.
Right. And the main key here is like everyone got their job back.
Yes.
Like they got back pay. The union won a lot of good things for those workers. And so congrats to them. And we are so happy that we can now be patrons once again to the Alamo Drafthouse. So, well, yes.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, that's a perfect place to leave Willem Dafoe. He's still got many years of being a weird gremlin man, and I can't wait to watch it again. But if you want to tell us who your favorite weird gremlin man is, that is not either Louis or I, because we are both beautiful gentlemen.
Yes.
You can always write to us on a Blue Sky at the Mixed Reviews.
We're like weird fairy men. You can find us on Facebook and just type in the Mixed Reviews.
If you want to email us, you can always find us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com. Write us a little love note.
Yeah, we're also on Instagram at @the_mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to our back catalog the way you've listened to this entire episode, you can find us on any major podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, all the main ones. If you want to go there, leave us a 5-star review, write us a little rating. Write us a little rating?
Write us a little rating. Write us a little note. Give us a little rating.
Yeah, write us a little note, give us a little rating, and we'll read it on the show. If you're cool with that. If you're not cool with that, we'll probably still read it on the show, whatever. It's our show.
It's our show. We're also, want to say before we go, we're a very proud member of the Glitter Jaw Network, community coterie of queer podcasting, of all your favorite pop culture things. Gavin has a whole other show on the network without me. With our
You're gonna be there. You're gonna be there eventually.
Okay, we're not gonna talk about this on air, but Chels has informed me of what's coming, and I'm excited for that. But please go check out that show. Check out all the other shows on the Glitter Jaw Queer Podcasting Network. Thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely. Support us on Patreon, $5 across the board.
Yeah,
and we'll be back this month.
We'll be back. Please go keep an eye out on our Instagram for voting for May Madness. So we're gonna have a regular episode at the end of this month, and then in June, after all the voting is over, we'll have our Pride episode ready to go for you guys. So
absolutely,
thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
I got 2 weeks in back pay, just gas in my car. And your folks say I must